Employees inside the building evacuated, and the people inside that car were helped out just in time.
3 people were taken to the hospital, but police say they're expected to recover. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump is expected to welcome Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House tonight as Israel and Hamas negotiate a possible ceasefire.
Israel and Hamas are as close as they've been in months to a ceasefire deal and hostage release. Under the terms of this agreement, there'd be a 60-day pause in the fighting, during which as many as 10 living hostages would be released. Donald Trump has been pushing hard for this deal, but there are still some major hurdles.
That's ABC News Chief International Correspondent James Longman. The Utah Jazz have traded John Collins to the Los Angeles Clippers in a 3-team trade. ESPN reports the Jazz will get Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson from the Miami Heat and a 2027 Clippers second-round pick. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 245 points this morning. That's 0.5% to 44,583. Coming up, we've still got a little bit of traffic slowdowns, but it's going to be hot. Traffic and weather together is next. KSL News Time 9:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Wappett, Executive Director of the Institute for Disability Research Policy and Practice, or the IDRPP, at Utah State University. Did you know that 1 in 4 Utahns have a disability? Think about that. Your neighbor, your colleagues, your family. At some point, disability affects everyone. The USU IDRPP is on the front lines, driving change right here in Utah and across the nation for people with disabilities. For over 50 years, IDRPP has been Utah's University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, generating vital research that shapes effective policies and delivers real-world solutions. From groundbreaking research to evidence-based training, the IDRPP empowers individuals with disabilities, their families, and the professionals who support them. We're making our communities more accessible and welcoming for everyone. Find out more at idrpp.usu.edu.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey gang, it's Big Jim Smith. I am now retired and I'm a full-time radio listener, and I'm glad I am. I had a unique situation of not being able to refi my house because I'm not employed. Despite the fact that I have lots of income, I have tons of assets, overcoming some hurdles made it impossible to get things together with banks or credit unions. So I contacted a guy I heard about right here on the radio, Rick Kirchenbaum at Loans by Rick. Best phone call I've ever made. Rick and his team at Vintage Lending were able to help me overcome some incredible hurdles, how to verify my income, all the things I needed to do to get my refi together, and they got me more cash out of my house than I expected. Do it. If you have problems getting your financing together, call Loans by Rick. You can trust Rick Kirchenbaum, Loans by Rick, and Vintage Lending. He is NMLS number 241179. Call him directly at 801-809-7283. That's 801-809-7283. Tell him Big Jim sent you. Loans by Rick.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Any trouble spots left, Heather Kelly?
At 7800 South in West Jordan. We've got traffic backed up from Copper Hills Parkway all the way over to Bangerter Highway. where a multi-vehicle crash is blocking 3 lanes of the roadway. You only have one right lane getting through there, which has caused just a parking lot. But also if you're eastbound going the opposite direction, the left lane is also blocked because you've got a car sitting on top of the median in between those two directions of travel. You're also still going to see some slowdowns northbound I-15 from Bluffdale all the way into Murray, and on I-215 eastbound, you've got a bit of slowing as you try to head towards State Street. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, today's high is expected to reach 96 degrees. We heat up to 98 tomorrow and 99 on Wednesday before cooling off into the lower 90s on Thursday. Right now it's sunny and 76 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Boy, the big news over the weekend has just got to be this tragic flooding in Texas, Holly, where the Guadalupe River rose 26 feet in 45 minutes. As we take a look at this tragedy, we're now learning that at least 80 people are dead. There are still about 10 missing. 82 people, I think, are dead right now that they've confirmed. And there's this camp, this little summer camp where all these young kids were, young girls. 27 dead so far just from that one camp, yeah. and another 10 missing there. I mean, it's just the tragedy and the bad news that we keep getting from this just continue to get worse. But we have with us ABC's Jim Ryan, who's with us live from Texas. Jim, what can you tell us is the update? And I know some of the city officials are currently talking.
They are, yeah. The sheriff just a couple of minutes ago announced that more bodies have been found. The total fatality count stands at 87. 75 of those were found here in Kerr County, right where Kerrville is, the community here in the Hill Country. So, yeah, it's not surprising that number has risen, and considering that more people are still missing, I expect we'll see that number continuing to rise.
Can you tell us what the ongoing either rescue or recovery efforts are looking like right now?
Well, about 400 first responders from 20 different agencies have fanned out across the Hill Country, right along the Guadalupe River and the other rivers that feed into it, the ones that flooded so badly on Friday. They're looking for victims, whether dead or alive. Now, certainly the hope is that they'll find survivors out there, but I think that with each passing hour, that hope dwindles somewhat. But they are trying to maintain their energy, trying to maintain their focus on finding people as quickly as possible on the chance that some of them might still be alive 3 days after this flash flood event.
Jim, we live in a drought here in Utah, and really in the desert. It's hard for us to appreciate it, but I'm looking at some of the numbers here. There are actually 6 counties affected by this, and there are deaths in at least 6 counties, and it appears that the weather isn't letting up.
Well, we've had some more rain here today, and there's a chance of more flooding this afternoon, but it'll be nothing like it was the other day. This area has undergone a terrible drought, too, for several years, and that has contributed to this situation. The ground is very dry. It's very hard. It's almost like concrete. So when you get 10 to 12 inches of rain in just a couple hours' time, it doesn't soak into the ground. It just runs off into the tributaries that feed into rivers like the Guadalupe, where I am now. And that's why you get this rapid rise in water, because nothing is there to stop it. Nothing is there to soak it up. And it ends up in a wall of water like we saw move through Kerrville on Friday, 27 to 30-foot wall of water that came crashing through town.
I'm not sure you can answer this question, but is there a way for people to help from Utah? Like what could we do from here to be able to help Texas?
Absolutely. I mean, donating to the American Red Cross, and you can designate those donations and direct them toward the flood relief efforts going on here in Texas. There are other organizations that you can log on and find help. The Kerrville Chamber of Commerce. He has a site now, and they're soliciting donations to help the businesses to recover from this. But I think the best way to do it, the most reliable way, and the safest way, frankly, considering how many scams are likely to be out there, is to go on to the redcross.org find the appropriate site there, make contributions that way. Sending goods and canned goods and water doesn't help much, but certainly cash can be put to use here by the Red Cross.
Jim, one final question. It seems like the authorities did get alerts out, and maybe they were timely. Do we know what happened or why some people didn't, I hate to say, take it as seriously as they could have, or maybe they just didn't get the information as well as they could have? Do we know?
Well, I think there might have been some complacency. This area is known as Flash Flood Alley. It's said to be some of the most prone to flash flooding of any place in the country. But this also happened at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So many of those people, including those at those summer camps and on the campgrounds, were simply asleep. So if warnings went out, they probably didn't get them.
Very well. Jim Ryan from Texas, thank you for joining us. And we have Senator Cruz from Texas who's actually speaking to parents right now. Let's break away to that.
100 out of 100 times when that happens, we see Texans coming together, helping each other, engaging in acts of heroism. There have been over 850 high water rescues since this flooding began. 850. You look at extraordinary stories of Eagle Scouts pulling campers out of harm's way. I was just hearing a story of one counselor whose head was right at the water holding up 2 mattresses with campers on those mattresses. That kind of courage, that kind of selflessness. And then they're the first responders. The local first responders, I want to thank every one of the first responders at the local level, at the city level, at the county level, at the state level, at the federal level. In the first few hours of this flood, I was on the phone with Governor Abbott. I was on the phone with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. I was on the phone with Nim Kidd, the head of the Texas Department of Emergency Management. And then I called President Trump. I called President Trump. He was having dinner at the time. It was still transpiring. And I wanted him to know, I said, Mr. President, everything we're hearing right now, this appears to be bad, really bad. There may be a very significant loss of life unfolding right now in Texas. And I will tell you, the President said, Ted, anything Texas needs, the answer is yes. Whatever assets you need, whatever resources you need, yes, let us know, and we will provide everything. Within hours, we had helicopters, over a dozen helicopters in the air. National Guard, DPS, game wardens, Coast Guard, doing search and rescue, reaching down. We've all seen the videos of little girls being pulled up, hoisted out of harm's way. Incredible courage and heroism. Search and rescue is the first stage, but the process of coming together and rebuilding is going to take longer. And I will say to all the grieving families, to all of those who've gotten the worst news imaginable, that your little girl, she's gone. I will say for many of us, those are friends and neighbors who've lost children. Got multiple kids who go to school with my girls. The mayor asked for prayers. And I want to say thank you to the millions of Texans, to the millions of Americans, to the millions of people all over the world right now who are praying for Texas and praying for those parents. Going through this grief, it is going to take love, it is going to take friends and family embracing and hugging and holding them while they weep. And it's going to take the church. With every disaster, one of the things we see here in Texas is the church steps up and the church helps and the church feeds and clothes and comforts. This morning I met with a group of chaplains who've been going through the incredibly difficult process of talking to mom and dad after mom and dad who just lost the most precious person they ever knew. And those chaplains are just trying to love them and show God's love. So I want to say we will come through this. To those in the midst of grief right now, that might seem hard to fathom. But Texas will come through this. And I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to these gentlemen here who are working. They are not sleeping. They are working every day. Thank you to the families. Thank you to the Salvation Army. Thank you to everyone who is just reaching out and saying, how can I help? We will come through this, and we'll come through this together. Thank you.
We've been listening to comments from Texas Senator Cruz up to the families and to the public there in Texas about the flooding. When we come back after the break, we're going to stay on this subject and talk to KSL meteorologist Kevin Eubank about how weather conditions combined to release and unleash this torrent in Texas that left now 87 people dead. Stay with us.
Amanda, we love talking about Utah Community Credit Union, and guess what? They just got news that they saved their members over $40 million in 2024 alone.
And UCCU is opening 4 new branches in the Salt Lake Valley, which means 6 total now. They have 21st South, Taylorsville, Sandy, Magna, Harriman, and Draper.
And to celebrate these new branches, UCCU is offering some amazing opportunities. First of all, $150 cash just for setting up direct deposit with your UCCU account.
They'll give you up to $250 cash just for transferring any existing loan from another institution to UCCU.
And here's the big one, giving away 10 amazing prizes, including, get this, a brand new 2025 Jeep Wrangler.
So you heard that right. A brand new Jeep Wrangler could be yours, and no purchase is necessary. You don't even have to be a member.
Anyone can enter. It's easy. All you've got to do is go to uccu.com and sign up. So enter to win today.
UCCU.com. Find out more about Utah Community Credit Union, where you're going to love where you bank.
Everybody knows that exterior remodeling salespeople are all about the high-pressure sell. Am I right? Windows, siding, gutters, those suckers are going to twist your arm and get you to buy, or they won't leave your house at night. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and I want you to know we don't have high-pressure sells. In fact, we don't even have salespeople. Nope, we have estimators. That's a huge difference. Estimators are trained to look at the entire scope of the project, to see and know if there are any problems like rotten wood, wood-borne insects, or construction issues specific to your house or your neighbors. Salespeople are more concerned about playing those silly price games. Buy one, get one free, sign today and get 40% off, as if they didn't just jack the price up to give you a fake discount. RGS Exteriors estimators are going to give you a great quote. No games, no tricks, no nonsense. Call RGS Exteriors to quote your exterior project. Our number is 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's rgsutah.com.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduce stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Inside Sources.
We've been following the tragedy that has occurred over the last few days in central Texas. We learned from the Kerr County Sheriff a minute ago that some 87 people are now confirmed deceased, 75 in that county alone, and dozens of people still missing. There was a particular Camp Mystic down there. 28 children have been missing from that camp. 10 are still unaccounted for. I mean, this tragedy, Holly, just continues to get worse and worse by the minute, and it's all as a result of just these torrential rains that have increased the size of this Guadalupe River and has flooded now into 6 different counties down there.
Yeah, it's really something, this weather story. So we actually are lucky to have on the line with us Kevin Eubank, who's KSL meteorologist, to talk to us about how the weather patterns combined to get to these massive flash floods. Can you talk to us about that, Kevin?
You bet. Greg, Holly, good morning. And again, our hearts and prayers just go to the people in Texas, for the families who are grieving the loss of their loved ones, and in what has really been just catastrophic flooding. And Texas is not flooding is not new to Texas. Flooding's not new to Utah. But when this size and scope of rains come and floods come, and the loss of life is so great, it definitely is it's hard to kind of process. So what we're talking about in this particular area is a large river that flows through Texas by several basins, right? Big reservoirs and other things. These rivers have ultimately flow into the Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico. And so as they do, these rivers can swell with large rainstorms. That's what they're supposed to do. But what made this one so different was the amount of rain that came, which was huge. They picked up 4 to 5 months of rain in a matter of hours, and that equated to 7, 8, 9, 10 inches of rain. And then it happened in an overnight period. So all that water flow that came, it swelled and caused that river to rise and spread. So they had at one point a 20-foot rise on that river and a swell that came down that river of 40 to 50 feet.
Wow.
And so what that does is it causes that river to expand width-wise and go into places that it doesn't normally go, and it has debris, and it has depth, deeper than it's ever been. And that's why places like Camp Mystic and these others that were along that river, that's why they were impacted. That's why there was such great loss of life, is these campers were sleeping. They weren't aware and we get these kinds of storms in Utah, but they're generally during the day with summer thunderstorms, slot canyons, and daytime. There is some nighttime things that happen here, but this was just unprecedented. It was so large.
Kevin, talk to us about the National Weather Service and the local meteorologists there, and what information they would have had just through their own scientific resources that would give them the opportunity to give some people notice of this. I mean, what was it about the storm patterns that you think alerted them that this was about to happen?
Well, and again, the National Weather Service does an incredible job with issuing watches and warnings, and they're monitoring river, and we have river flow sensors that are getting depth and speed and all sorts of things. They were on top of this, despite what some media reports or what political agendas have been asked to be kind of twisted a little bit, is these meteorologists knew these storms were coming, and they issued warnings, watches, and communication. Now, that doesn't mean everyone receives it, and that doesn't mean everyone fully understands it. That doesn't even mean the National Weather Service fully comprehended how large, how devastating these potentially were going to be. But they did issue the warnings. They did communicate those messages. But again, not everyone gets those messages, and not everyone chooses to listen to those messages. And I know nothing of the specifics regarding who got and who received and who listened. But they were issued, and these flood warnings and these river warnings, they were put out. And it's just the timing. It was so difficult. And when you're dealing with a cataclysmic kind of a storm that does what this did, it's so difficult to predict or say or even speak to the gravity of such an event, because no meteorologist, I mean, we do our very best to warn, and we surely don't want to alarm if unnecessary, but how do you instill in someone the gravity of what's about to happen when you've never seen that, maybe even in your lifetime? It's just difficult to do.
Yeah, I have a question about cell service. So if you're getting alerts on your cell phone, and I've recently traveled to the Midwest and got a tornado warning on my cell phone, right? It was really loud and really obvious. But if you're outside of cell coverage, what options are there for people to be able to stay hooked into emergency warning systems?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think over time, these kind of events are going to start to help us craft that in a better way, because there's a lot of rural areas that maybe don't have cell phone coverage. So the trick is, if you're in coverage with any sort of Wi-Fi at all, if you're at a cabin or if you're at a place that has any sort of internet connectivity, you're still going to get those watches and warnings. And now with new technology, even we're getting satellite delivered messages and other things. And I would guess, Holly, that with time, that satellite delivery will become very, very critical for rural areas or areas of no cell phone coverage for weather warnings and alerts, safety warnings and alerts. And so we actually have more people with weather devices in their hands than ever before. The effectiveness of watches and warnings is better, higher, deeper penetration than ever before. But we also have options, right? I'm sure you and I, and we've turned those things off before. They're scary, they're annoying or whatever, and we decide not to engage them. And so that's also an issue with some of these watches and warnings.
Kevin, we think of ourselves here in Utah as being under severe drought situation. We live in a desert, but we're not immune from this, especially in our national parks, are we? From these flash floods and these heavy rains that cause this torrential problems.
No, you're exactly right. In fact, the largest single weather-related deaths occurred in Utah because of flash flooding. And it goes back to September 14th, 2015, where 20 people died in Utah because of flash floods. So there were 10 children and 10 adults. 6 of them were hikers in Zion National Park. Another group was in a van and was washed away along the Virgin River in Hilldale. And so to lose 20 people in Utah, which is a drought state, because of flooding, is one of those things that's difficult to reconcile in your mind. But when you get big, heavy rains that come in a very short period of time, they're actually condensed into a small river or a creek or a drainage or a slot canyon. Anyone in those paths, I mean, the debris, the water rise is so fast. And it's so difficult to comprehend how quickly that can happen and how quickly a loss of life can occur.
Thank you so much for joining us, Kevin. We really appreciate talking to you. That was Kevin Eubank, KSL meteorologist.
We do have an update. We want to go back to the authorities in Texas. We're getting a little bit of a new update. Stay with us, or stay right now. We're breaking away right now.
We actually have a 5 hotline line. It fluctuates between 3 and 5, but we're working on it. We get calls 24 hours, 7 days a week. We haven't hit the weeks yet, but we're still taking in calls. We are collecting all that information. So we don't have a solid number that we're willing to talk about right now. We do know that it is a lot, because we also are getting a lot of fake calls. You're looking. This is a worldwide discussion, and we're dealing with scammers. Victims' families are being reached out to, saying that they have their kids, pay me money. It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. We're dealing with with mental health issues where people are calling saying they have visions. All of these things we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and we're having to vet this information, and it becomes very taxing on our people. Again, this is an extremely heartbreaking. This is, if not the worst, one of the worst disasters in this region in a very, very long time, even beyond 1987. And but we're
your best estimate here, like dozens or hundreds, or just to give people an idea.
A lot. So, yeah, let me.
Yeah,
Not to get into the weeds on, people are asking lots of questions, and where should we start the investigation?
To the best of my knowledge, there is zero evidence of anything related to anything like weather modification. And look, the internet can be a strange place. People can come up with all sorts of crazy theories. What I know is a reality is that a whole lot of Texans are grieving right now. I will tell you, I was visiting with one parent who was talking about online, being harassed online because their information was public, that they had a little girl who was missing at Mystic. And look, there are a lot of people who are messed up, and my call for everyone, there's a time to have political fights, there's a time to disagree. This is a time just to to reach out, support each other, go volunteer at the Salvation Army, give them money, go volunteer at your church, you know what I did when this happened? Just go hug your kids. Because I got to tell you, I hugged my girls with tears in my eyes, because every one of us who's a parent, there but for the grace of God go I. And nothing will fill the void in these moms and dads' hearts, but they'll make it through it. And every one of us, we have an obligation to come through and help them make it through it. And look, Texas will come through, and let me say, Kirk County, the Hill Country is incredible, it is beautiful. And these summer camps, Camp Mystic is an incredible Texas institution. For a century, it has made a profound difference helping young girls become strong women in Texas and across the country. And so, for me at least, I'm praying for these camps, I'm praying for all the campers, everyone implicated, everyone impacted, and I hope we come together and stand as one doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
We've been listening to Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Before that, we heard from one of the county officials there about the 89 people confirmed dead in these catastrophic floods in Texas. I mean, Holly, the devastation, it's overwhelming to just even watch and look at some of this stuff. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk about some aspects of the budget bill signed into law on Friday that could impact student loans and students going to graduate school. We'll be right back.
9:31 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, the Emery County Sheriff's Office says they've found the body of the person who went missing at Huntington State Park. Officials say they were called to the park to help find a drowning victim yesterday afternoon. They say crews used sonar technology to help them in the search. Officials have not released the person's identity. Fire officials say the Forsyth fire is now 47% contained as close to 600 fire personnel continue to battle the blaze. Officials say the fire has burned nearly 14,000 acres, but crews are continuing to make progress. The France Canyon fire is now 84% contained. Officials say that fire has burned nearly 35,000 acres as more than 200 firefighters work to put it out. You can keep track of all the wildfires burning in the state by visiting our website, kslnewsradio.com, and clicking on Utah Fire Watch at the top of the page. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, over 100 drones were launched at Ukraine this morning as the war with Russia continues.
Local authorities say nearly 70 people were injured after drones struck residential areas. An apartment building also took a direct hit. Frightening video seems to show the moment a drone dive bombs into the city. A 34-year-old woman has now died from her wounds in hospital. Over 20 more people were injured.
That's ABC's Patrick Reevell. Your money at this moment, the Dow seems to be reacting negatively to the uncertainty around the president's tariffs, with the Dow down 313 points this morning to 44,515. Coming up, hot today, hot tomorrow. You get the picture. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 9:33.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. That does give us certain advantages, for example, in experience and resources. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. If you're a guy facing divorce, remember, Cordell & Cordell, a partner you can count on. Visit CordellCordell.com to schedule your consultation.
Five guys walk into a JCW's and order burgers. A pastrami, a mushroom Swiss, guacamole bacon, a hickory barbecue, a ribeye steak, 2 onion rings, 3 French fries, a strawberry, mint, peanut butter, chocolate, and marshmallow shake, and not one left to tip. Because at JCW's, we don't ask for it. We think the price you see should be the price you pay. And all that, would you like to leave a tip stuff, is for the birds. JCW's. Quality and a lot of it. Open in American Fork, Lehigh, Provo, South Jordan, and Harriman.
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, Prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day, so you can find the right candidates right away. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We've got our slowdown southbound I-15 as you leave Kaysville, head into Farmington. That is due to the daily lane restrictions we have there where the old Shepherd Lane Bridge was deconstructed, and they're trying to build a new one. After that, though, you've got good speeds into downtown Salt Lake. The crash on 7800 South and West Jordan is in the clearing stages. This is eastbound right before you get to the Bangerter Highway overpass, and the two left lanes that would take you onto northbound Bangerter Highway, they are still blocked with emergency crews. Power up your space with Campson Electric. Trusted, skilled, and ready for your next project. From lighting to full installs, we've got you covered. Visit CampsonElectric.com and let's get started today. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, today's high expected to reach 96 degrees, and then we heat up to 98 tomorrow and 99 on Wednesday before we, quote, cool off into the lower 90s on Thursday. Right now, though, it's sunny and 77 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We've been following the developments and the updates and the accountings from the authorities in Texas about this massive flooding there. And before we segue into student loans, Holly, I just have to go back to something I heard in the last segment, which is that there are actually people scamming victims and scamming families and soliciting money to help them find their loved ones. I mean, at a time like this, I can't even imagine anything as heartless as something like that.
Look, unfortunately, anytime that there's a tragedy, scammers come out of the woodwork. And so it's one of the things when we asked the ABC reporter at the top of the hour, are there ways for people to help? And he mentioned the Red Cross, and Senator Ted Cruz mentioned the Salvation Army. People need to be really careful when they donate. Because there are so many scams. And so there could be a GoFundMe, but it's not for the actual family, right? It's not an official thing, and it's somebody just trying to see how much money they can generate. You'll see things like a URL will be just slightly misspelled, right? Instead of redcross.org, maybe you have an extra X in it or something. I mean, there's just these ways that the scammers get out there, and it was disturbing to hear that they're actually sending notes to people whose children are missing saying, we have your daughter and we're holding her for ransom, basically, right? I mean, it's really horrible and actually an unfortunate reality anytime there's a tragedy.
Yeah, and we'll follow if there are any updates on that as the waters continue to rise. The authorities there are seemingly doing a very, very good job, Holly. And the National Weather Service did, I think, an admirable job of getting the information out to as many people as possible before these floods came. But at some point, the waters were so great and the floods were so high that there was almost no escape.
And they mentioned, Kevin Eubank mentioned that there was basically a wave of water. You're talking about a 50-foot wave on a river, right? I mean, that's crazy. But I think Senator Ted Cruz, and I've had policy disagreements with him, not that we've ever talked in person, but he's striking the right note, and he's saying there will be a time to talk about what we could learn from this, what we can do better, maybe what didn't go as well, but this is not the time to politicize this tragedy, and people on both sides are doing it, and they just need to stop. Right. This is not the time.
No, he's actually said that twice, even while we were listening. That this isn't a.
He's striking the right note.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Interesting. We were down in southern Utah this weekend near Capitol Reef, and of course we get down there, and there's a significant flash flood warning in effect. But there's so much complacency. You just kind of go and think, well, it's not going to affect me.
Right.
But there are people that get down in those slot canyons, even like
Yeah.
here in Utah. Kevin Eubank talked about that. When we were driving back yesterday, my wife was talking about some of the things in this big, beautiful bill that a lot of us didn't really take into account. She's got a kid in grad school right now, and I didn't realize this, but as we're breaking down the bill, Holly, we're learning more and more about what it does. Even if you just focus on student loans alone for graduate school,
right.
It's something significant that I don't think we've talked about or maybe appreciated.
Yeah, and one of the things about those loans is that it allows people who are not independently wealthy to go to graduate school and become doctors, become lawyers, become, people with PhDs potentially. I've used these loans to go ahead and get graduate degrees myself. But what this bill does is it puts limits on the amount you can take out for these loans, which if you're coming from a lower socioeconomic class, you're going to struggle more than to complete medical school. So one of the caps is $200,000 for medical school. That sounds like a lot of money in loans.
Right.
And it is, but the average cost of a private in-state a public school medical school is $286,000 to get through 4 years. And it's almost $400,000 at private universities. So you're talking about people would have to come up with almost $200,000 more just to pay tuition.
Yeah, and how many doctors and lawyers do you know, Holly, that graduated from school and are doing well, and they're creating and they're producing, but they have six figures in student loan debt, and they were saved by these student loan programs that they may not have been able to qualify for. $200,000. You're right. It seems like a lot of money, but I don't know very many doctors today that could have gone through
and just paid out of pocket, right?
Yeah, because you're thinking,
and you can't go to medical school and hold a part-time job or even a full-time job and expect to be able to pay all of those costs and still be able to do medical school.
So unless you have a family that's willing to support and come up with that additional amount of money, it's almost impossible to go to medical school. And it's $100,000 for grad students. It's $200,000 for medical and law students.
Yeah.
But $100,000 to go to grad school.
Not enough.
Yeah, that's not enough if you're in it for more than a year or two. I mean, those are things that you
can get scholarships. I guess there's that. But.
Right. Yes. Or I don't know. I mean, I don't understand why this occurred, except that the bill is designed to cut back on costs and expenses and whatnot. And maybe student loans are one area that, and we saw from Biden's student loan forgiveness program that there wasn't a lot of sympathy to that particular program. I mean, nationally. And so maybe Trump's taking that by the horns and saying, okay, maybe the public isn't all that keen on student loans.
Well, and speaking of scamming, I mean, this actually opens the door for high interest rate loans kind of done on the side, right? Where I could see this becoming an issue where people are saying, hey, well, you can't get any more from the government, but I'll loan you money at X outrageous % of interest. So another thing I did remember from a couple of years ago, I wrote about this story. There was a woman whose husband was a physician and ended up passing away. They had quite a large nest egg, I guess, or trust fund. And she turned that all over into making medical school tuition free for one school in New York. And really, I mean, they're flooded with applications, but it was really this idea of it's out of reach for so many people. We're going to try and make it easier, but that's just one school, right? And they're going to be really successful, but this is a nationwide problem that I think people don't realize yet, as you pointed out, what the impact is going to be.
Right, and it's going to become out of reach for people who are really seeking the American dream, people that we would hope could have that opportunity that aren't born into wealth. And I don't know, it's tragic. I took advantage of student loans when I was in law school. I didn't need it for undergraduate when I got into law school. They don't want you working your first year in law school. So I didn't really have much choice but to take out a loan.
Right.
And I spent several years paying that back. Luckily we did. When we come back after the break, Holly, have you ever heard of the term balkanization?
I have, actually.
Okay, I hadn't, but Salt Lake Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller is going to join us after the break to talk about that and why Utah needs to avoid that. Stay with us.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. car today at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Your car, running or not, can be picked up as soon as the next day. You'll get a maximum tax deduction and a vacation voucher.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. For years now, I've been telling you about Connecticut soft water systems that use 2/3 less salt than the others. But I've never told you exactly how they do that. Well, there are several ways, so consider this as part one in a series. Most of the softeners out there use a finicky, hard-to-adjust computer to guesstimate when to cycle, and it errs on the side of cycling too often, which means it'll burn through way too much salt way too soon. Connecticut is different. It has an all-mechanical system that measures the water precisely. No computer, no guesstimating, so it cycles only when needed. The result? Connecticut delivers perfectly soft water 24/7 using minimal salt. So why not save your lower back from carrying the 3 bags of salt when all you need is 1? Call Northern Utah's authorized Connecticut dealer, Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake. Call them now, 801-576-8600, or log on to softwaterutah.com and tell them Doug sent you.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and if you have a drain that's clogged or backed up, after you've tried the plungers and products, the next step usually involves some kind of drain snake or cabling equipment. You see, sometimes the blockage is far enough down the line that you need special equipment that most homeowners just don't have. That's where the Drains Department at Any Hour Services can help. A drain snake can clear most blockages and get the water flowing again, and clearing blocked drains is what our Drains Department does day in and day out. So if you're a homeowner with a drain line that's clogged or backed up and you'd like one of our drain technicians to come and snake the line for you, it's only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does your job require you to be on your feet all day? Teachers, postal carriers, salespeople, and restaurant staff. Many of us need our feet to get us through the day. Hi, this is Mike with the Good Feet store, and I'd like you to hear from Donna. She's a nurse and a real customer of the Good Feet store who wanted to share her story.
Oh, I have to tell you, I have struggled with pain in my feet. I was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis. With the 3-step program, it really fits to your lifestyle. I work in a hospital. I'm a registered nurse, so being on my feet, walking throughout the hospital during the day, I am free from any type of pain. And after working a 12-hour shift, I go home and my feet do not hurt.
Whether you're a nurse or anyone wanting to enjoy work without your feet getting in the way, come see us at the Good Feet store.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Schedule your free test walk at goodfeet.com.
Whoa, it's you, the Capital One Bank guy.
That's what they call me.
Mind if I get a selfie?
Yeah, sure thing. Say no fees or minimums on your Capital One checking account.
Wow, that's a keeper. So, where are you heading?
I'm off to spread the good news that Capital One helps people keep more money in their wallet with no overdraft fees.
Oh, you're the best Capital One Bank guy.
Hey, mind if I get a selfie?
Sure.
Say, Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
And expanded Inside Sources.
So, Greg, we mentioned economic balkanization, and it's an interesting topic, and I think really easily explained by our next guest, who is the president and CEO of the Salt Lake Chamber. It's Derek Miller, and he published a piece in Utah Policy. I'm the editor of that, and it's on utahpolicy.com. You can see it there, or in the newsletter. We had an excerpt from it, I think, on Friday. But Derek, Thanks for joining us. Can you please explain balkanization?
Great to be with you, Holly. Great to be with you, Greg, two of my favorite people. So probably only a college student from the early 90s in international relations would know this, but I happen to be one of them. Balkanization talks about that area of the world that not just in the 90s during the Civil War there, in the breakup of the Soviet Union and then the breakup of the former Yugoslavia, it's actually an area of the world that's been fighting for centuries. And it has a lot to do, like most wars, with different ethnic groups, different religious groups, different languages, different backgrounds, different cultures, etc. But it's become a term that's used worldwide now as when you start to pull apart and fight rather than pull together and cooperate. So the purpose of my op-ed, and thank you, Holly, for running it in Utah Policy, was to say things are going so well in Utah, let's not take it for granted and start to suffer economic balkanization.
What got you thinking about that, Derek? I mean, what was it that's going on here, either locally or nationally, that made you consider this concept? And maybe things are so good right now that there could be a change in a way that's not necessarily helpful for our economy.
Well, part of it is just that it's my job to be thinking about it. This is what I get paid for, to try to anticipate as best as I can what might be around corners, what stumbling blocks might be in our way. The biggest fear that I have is that things are going so well, and they really are. And they've been going well for a couple decades now, just unprecedented economic opportunity in our state, and we continue to see that. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates. We have one of the highest job growth rates. But the things that we experience today in our economy are usually because of good decisions that were made 10 or 15 years ago. It just sort of takes that ongoing tilling of the soil to reap a good crop. And so I just wonder a lot now that I'm a grandfather for the third time as of 2 weeks ago. Thank you. And I guess it's just a cliche, but it's true. You start thinking about, well, what is the opportunity going to be for my children? What is the opportunity going to be for my grandchildren? And I just want to make sure that we don't ruin the good thing that we have going here in Utah. But there are some warning signs. I think there are some warning signs that we need to be aware of.
Can you share some of those red flags that you might be seeing?
One of them is that we start to break down into policy silos. Holly, you served in the state legislature, so you would have a good sense of this. Utah is a very business-friendly state, but we are at risk of being pulled into ideological extremes like the rest of the country, whether that be the far left progressives or the far right populists. They sort of meet together in a horseshoe. In the one thing that they have in common is they don't like business. And I hear that a little bit more and more, not widespread, but at least enough that it worries me with the legislature when I hear those elected representatives say, we don't care what business has to say. We don't want to hear what business has to say. So that is one concern. The other is that I worry about our rural communities that aren't experiencing the same economic benefits that we are along the Wasatch Front or some of our population centers to the north in Logan or to the south in St. George. And then the last one I would mention is that we have said for a long time, as long as I've been involved in economic development in the state, which is 20 years now, that our secret sauce is collaboration. But I worry that we may have competing and duplicative efforts rather than collaborative efforts.
Derek, you talk in your article about some individuals and some initiatives that give you some optimism about the future of Utah's economic growth. And one of those is something I'm not particularly familiar with, and I'm not sure whether our listeners are as well, and that's this Utah Rising initiative. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Greg. Happy to talk about that. The two individuals, by the way, that I referenced in my op-ed were the new leader of the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, former majority leader in the House, Jefferson Moss from Utah County. He's a great leader. He's smart. He's worked in the private sector, been very successful. And the second one is a new leader of EDC Utah, which is a team that's part of the chamber that's responsible for recruiting new business in the state. So you think about Goldman Sachs coming here, eBay, Procter & Gamble, many others. That's the job of EDC Utah. But specifically to Utah Rising, this was born out of this thought that I've had, this concern that I've had. And, I have a responsibility in the private sector to help bring a united voice to the business community. And so Utah Rising is really that. It's a private sector-led, private sector vision for what our economy ought to be in the next 10 years, which, by the way, when we started it in 2024, obviously coincides with 2034, bringing the Olympics here. And what I've been saying is when the eyes of the world are on us for 2 weeks, but then they turn away after those 2 weeks, what will be left? And hopefully what will be left is a legacy that we build for the next 10 years in infrastructure, in a business environment, in more transportation, solving some of our environmental issues like air quality and water conservation in a way that it's something that we'll really be proud of, not just the Olympic Games, but something that we built over the next 2 years that will really be a legacy.
Thank you for sharing all that information. It's interesting you've talked about policy silos because that's kind of one of the areas that I'm, have always been interested in. But it's one of the things I think that we don't talk enough about, how I think it goes with the duplication of effort. So when you're talking about the state legislature, you may have dozens of bills that touch on the same subject, and the bill sponsors haven't even talked to each other. Nobody knows until they become public. Do you have specific recommendations for the Utah legislature in helping to avoid this economic balkanization?
Yes, and a big part of it is this Utah Rising, where we're bringing, or at least attempting to bring, a united business voice to say, this is what we need to do on transportation. This is what we need to do on housing. These are the big things that we can do to help maintain our quality of life. And so, as you know, Holly, a big part of what the Salt Lake Chamber does is our policy advocacy. But we recognize that we need to extend that beyond Salt Lake County, beyond the Salt Lake metropolitan area, beyond the Wasatch Front, and bring in these other voices of these other wonderful local chambers of commerce. And so that's a big part of what we're doing with Utah Rising. So we really can have that unified voice of the business community to say, this is what we believe needs to be done in order to maintain our quality of life and our economic prosperity in the state.
Derek, we've only got about a minute left, but Utah seems to do very well with income growth, with housing, although it's becoming almost
Costs,
a problem because they're
not.
getting so high. Our jobs are always good. Our jobless rate is always at a low. And I know this is an unfair question, but what can you point to as a reason or two or three as to why Utah is so successful in so many economic markers?
Well, first of all, it's just our people. We have one of the highest the highest job participation rate in the country by a factor of about 10%, meaning at roughly 70 to 75% in Utah. The next highest state is 60 to 65%, meaning people here want to work, and they typically work pretty hard. The other one that I would mention is that we have a very good culture. We have a family-friendly culture. We have a business-friendly culture. So we have the right policies, at least we have in the past, in place so that we have that sort of social cohesion. And then the third one I would mention is that we're problem solvers. So we have this history since 1847 where people were about to celebrate Pioneer Day. And when they came into the Salt Lake Valley and found a high mountain desert, we see today and we enjoy today what these people built. And now we need to be doing what those people did 100 years ago, to look out for the next 40 years, to look out for the next 50 years and say, what is it going to take to leave the same legacy for the next generation?
Thank you for joining us, Derek. When we come back, is Utah on the right track or wrong track?
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. A family lost their home to a fire in Ogden Canyon yesterday, which officials believe was started by illegal fireworks. Firefighters say this started just after midnight yesterday near the 9th Street trailhead. Ogden Deputy Fire Chief Mike Slater says this is why they have restrictions on fireworks in the first place.
We spend a lot of time and research and energy trying to decide when to put restrictions in place and what areas to do it, just because of cases like this. And in those early mornings when the wind's pushing these fires, it's hard for us to stop.
Several other homes were damaged but are still livable. Firefighters are still looking for whoever shot off the illegal fireworks. A number of small fires kept crews busy this weekend, especially in southern Utah. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
The fires are different and unrelated, but the message from fire officials stays the same. Be safe with flames and use your fire sense as the hot and dry weather conditions continue. Crews in Cedar City were busy on Saturday, responding to 2 different backyard fires within an hour of each other. No one was hurt, but some fences were damaged before crews could get the flames out. The cause of those are under investigation. A barn was destroyed in western Iron County. That includes everything inside, farm equipment, some vehicles, and livestock. Some campers in American Fork were also evacuated after 2 small fires started up. It was quickly put out and campers were able to return for the rest of their trips. Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 315 points this morning to 44,513. Coming up, hot for the next 3 days before it tapers off a tiny bit. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. For years now, I've been telling you about Connecticut soft water systems that use 2/3 less salt than the others. But I've never told you exactly how they do that. Well, there are several ways, so consider this as part 1 in a series. Most of the softeners out there use a finicky, hard-to-adjust computer to guesstimate when to cycle, and it errs on the side of cycling too often, which means it'll burn through way too much salt way too soon. Connecticut is different. It has an all-mechanical system that measures the water precisely. No computer, no guesstimating, so it cycles only when needed. The result, Connecticut delivers perfectly soft water 24/7 using minimal salt. So why not save your lower back from carrying the 3 bags of salt when all you need is 1? Call Northern Utah's authorized Connecticut dealer, Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake. Call them now, 801-576-8600, or log on to softwaterutah.com and tell them Doug sent you.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Hey, that's the spirit. Right now, we're celebrating free with a free STP oil filter when you buy 5 quarts of oil and free Duralast brake pads when you buy 2 rotors. Like always, free battery testing, charging, and recycling at every store. Celebrate free at AutoZone, now through July 28th.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Whether you're building your $1 million dream home, giving your current home a facelift, or just trying to get it out of the minor leagues, Peach Windows and Doors brings the big league look.
Modern style, energy efficiency, clean lines, tough builds, and curb appeal that hits like a home run. Not sure what you need? No sweat. Peach has the coaching staff to get your home in the game. No pressure, no gimmicks, just solid game plans and pro-level results to help you knock it out of the park.
Come see for yourself big, beautiful windows that bring the outside in. Visit Peach Windows and Doors showroom, big enough to spark ideas, small enough to feel right at home. It's time to step up your game and make your house the MVP of the neighborhood. Why live in the minor leagues when you can swing like $1 million? Peach Windows and Doors, because real homes play like champions. Visit peachdoorsandwindows.com or call 801-566-1255 for your free consultation.
That's Peach Windows and Doors. Give them a call, 801-566-1255.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's an update from Heather Kelly.
Well, we've had several city crashes reported, especially on 100 4th South in South Jordan, right around 2700 West. Also State Street and 106 South in the Sandy area. And all of those are blocking lanes, but they don't appear to be causing a whole bunch of delay. Where you do have the slowdowns, though, is southbound I-15 between Kaysville and Farmington, where a right lane is blocked for construction. No matter the weather, your feet can feel fantastic. Find the Good Feet location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today's high expected to reach 96 degrees. We heat up to 98 tomorrow and then 99 on Wednesday before cooling off into the lower 90s on Thursday. It is 81 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City right now. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We just had a really interesting conversation with Derek Miller from the Salt Lake Chamber, Holly, about the state of the economy in Utah, and maybe kind of like don't mess up a good thing, that we're doing things very well right now, and that sort of, keep it together as much as you possibly can.
We have so many conversations, too, about how Utah's number one, right? And all these different rankings.
Right. And let's keep the momentum going. So I was really interested because of what you just said, Holly. A new Deseret News Hinckley Institute of Politics poll found that Utah voters overall are mostly optimistic about the economy, but less so when it comes to the state of the country. But let me just give you a number that might surprise you. The question was asked this way: do you think Utah's economy is on the right track, or is it off on the wrong track? And you would have expected the number to, well, I'll just tell you the number. 52% think we're on the right track, 34% the wrong track, 13% weren't sure. 52% of Utahns think we're on the right track. It seems, I don't know.
Low. That seems
like a very low number to me, because by all accounts, I mean, I guess, I'm not the most objective in the world, but by all accounts, you listen to people like Derek Miller, you listen to people like our next guest, Phil Dean, who have talked to us about the state of the economy in Utah. It's pretty good. Nationally, people are asked, do you think the nation's on the right track or the wrong track? The numbers were flipped. 51% felt like the nation's economy was on the wrong track, and 38% felt that we were on the right track. So we're doing better among Utahns than the rest of the country, at least the opinion of Utahns, but still not a particularly high number. Let's go through this with Phil Dean. We have Phil Dean, chief economist with the University of Utah's Kem Gardner Policy Institute. Phil, thanks for joining us. And what's your take on the poll?
Yeah, it seems pretty consistent with what we show. So here at the Gardner Institute, we do a monthly consumer sentiment index that mimics a national one. And it is interesting that we see this trend of Utah consistently is above the U.S., which I think is pretty understandable given our strong economic performance. But we do tend to follow the U.S., right? We're part of the country. We're not an island out here by ourselves. So we tend to follow the trends, but usually at higher performance levels. So that definitely doesn't surprise me that we rank higher in terms of thinking about the Utah economy compared to the national economy.
So do you have an opinion about why it's just over half when Utah consistently gets all of these awards and rankings as number one for the economy and upward mobility and low unemployment? Why are we just barely over half?
Yeah, I mean, we do have a lot going for us, and at the same time, we definitely have challenges. So a couple things that come to mind for me. One is the cost of living. That Utah used to be a relatively inexpensive place to live, and you look at some parts of the economy, that's still the case. But you look at housing in particular, and for someone that's just getting into the market or renters, that you have seen some pretty sizable increases. And so that's where I think we see some divergence I've owned my home for 20 years. I'm paying 20 years ago housing prices. I'm much more comfortable than my kids that are out there getting into the housing market that face very different challenges. And that's why I think you see some of those lower numbers lower than you may anticipate is because of cost of living, particularly with housing.
Mm-hmm. You're right, Phil. I think a lot of us couldn't afford our own homes if we had to buy them today.
Right.
It's gotten pretty bad. Let me just flip to the national scene. Utahns are not as happy, or at least as optimistic about the state of the American economy. 31% said we were on the wrong track. Did that number surprise you?
51%.
Not necessarily. It's shown up for a while now in different ways, and I think a lot of it comes back to uncertainty. That with a change in administration, there have been new policies, and it's kind of uncertain how that's going to navigate. I think we're getting over time more and more certainty with the big bill that passed, where it seems like there are negotiations taking place on international trade that may end up not being as disruptive as was initially anticipated. But I think it's uncertainty at the national level is the big driver.
I don't think this is particularly surprising, but can you talk about the partisan breakdown in these numbers?
So it's, Utah definitely leans more politically to the right. And so it's not surprising that you see, I think, better sentiment there with both here locally and nationally, those on the right in positions of political power. So it doesn't really surprise me necessarily.
Yeah, we're looking at a number. 64% of Utah Republicans believe the state is on the right track, where only 38% of Democrats. I mean, as a Democrat, I don't necessarily agree with that number. To me, I think we're really on the right track. What do you think the future holds, Phil? Where do you think the legislature fits in? I know that's two separate questions in terms of where we're going in the future of our economy.
Yeah, again, I've been saying this for some time, but I really think housing is the main, both short-term and long-term risk to our economy. That we've had this robust economy that's, driven to a large extent by growth, and historically that was internal population growth, and now that's shifted more to external population growth. And to the extent that we're to slow down or even stop at some point in the future, I think it creates economic risk for us, where we used to have a pretty good wage to housing cost ratio. We're one of the worst wage to housing cost ratios now. And again, for those of us that are here and own our homes, we don't feel that in the same way. So it kind of happens incrementally of, it gets harder and harder and harder to attract workers here to the state. So, that's my sense of the biggest issue that needs to be addressed. Is thinking about housing. Certainly there are other issues like energy that are out there that create challenges if we don't address them well. But to me, housing is still at the forefront.
Thank you so much for joining us, Phil. We've been talking with Phil Dean, the chief economist with the University of Utah's Kim C. Gardner Policy Institute, about how voters think Utah's economy is doing and how the nation's economy is doing.
And Utah's economy, by all external accounts, Holly, is
right,
doing quite well.
Yeah.
But he points out something I think, and he hammered this pretty hard, which is housing. And
right.
as a singular factor, that's a huge problem in Utah right now. And we both have family members who are at least at that age where they're trying to buy a house right now.
Yeah.
And you're thinking there's no way a
right.
young person could do that. We have talked to a lot of people about things that can happen, things that are happening to help young people buy a house. But boy, we've that's something that doesn't seem to be getting better. And Phil, I think, said our income to housing is
the ratio
is
yeah.
one of the worst.
Yeah, it used to be really good. Like if you had an average paying job, you could afford to buy a house, but that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, it's sort of flipped on its head here in Utah. Wages great, housing really
well,
off
the
charts.
average wage, right? But not everybody is finding that. So I've got kids in their early 20s who are struggling to find employment right now to get enough to even pay rent.
Right, yeah, let alone afford a house
Right.
and put a down payment down
Yep.
and make a house payment for a house that I think our median house cost right now is something in the...
Over $500,000.
Yeah, over $500,000. Social Security has been in the news a lot lately, and for good reason. It's about to run out. Our next guest will tell us why we can't keep kicking the can down the road on Social Security reforms.
Your electric bill is going to be higher for summer, but not if you get new windows from Advanced Window Products. State-of-the-art double-pane windows and insulated frames, any style, any color, from a company that's been building them right here in Salt Lake City for 39 years. Not only are you buying local, but you're cutting out the middleman because they're the factory. You save 30, even 40% on your new windows, and you get a lifetime guarantee from a trusted local company. If there's a problem 5 years from now, they come right over and get things straight. And right now, you can save even more. If you call Advanced Windows for a quote, they'll give you an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Advanced Windows offers buy now, pay later. They have 60-month 0% financing. They always work out affordable payments, plus $2,500 off. So get your new windows for summer. Make the call now, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or you can go to advancedwindows.com.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell, founder of Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is complicated, especially when your small business or professional practice is involved. At Cordell & Cordell, we understand that these assets raise unique valuation and allocation issues. For 35 years, we've helped doctors, lawyers, and small business owners navigate divorce with confidence. Call us at Cordell & Cordell. Let me tell you, I understand on a personal level, your business is much more than a job. It's your legacy. Visit CordellCordell.com to schedule your consultation.
At Intermountain Health, we believe life is a circle. May yours surround you with insight, a healthy perspective, trust, and reassurance. The belief that our differences aren't that different, and compassion just when you need it most. Life is a circle. May yours help you live the healthiest life possible. Intermountain Health.
Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. It's how restaurants become reliably up and running neighborhood favorites. How retailers become seamlessly restocking, cyber-securing, must-visit shops. And how healthcare offices become the data managing caregivers that we all depend on. With reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solutions, and Wi-Fi backup, Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business, powering possibilities.
Now through July 21st, new Comcast Business customers can find out how to get started with 150 megabit internet and Security Edge for $59.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year agreement. Plus, ask how you get a $500 prepaid card for your business. Call and switch to Comcast Business today. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and automatic payments with bank account. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. Early termination fee applies.
When you take your grandkids to Disney, do they know what's in your investment portfolio? Do they even care? They're busy having a great time, and you're busy making memories. At Galileo Wealth Management, we understand the nuts and bolts of retirement planning, our investments, the stock market, taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and more. But think about it. What are you trying to do here? Is your goal to beat the S&P? Or is your goal to make memories with your family? Our goal is to give you the confidence to spend in retirement without the fear of running out of money. Call Todd Kim at Galileo Wealth Management today, 801-516-3227. That's 801-516-3227, or go online to GalileoWealth.com. Let Todd Kim and Galileo Wealth Management help you make memories, not just money.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Emergency medical unit, respond to 102 Maple Avenue, possible stroke victim.
When stroke occurs, you have 60 minutes to win or lose the race of your life. There are new treatments, but you must get to a hospital fast. If you suddenly feel weakness on one side, have trouble speaking, walking, or seeing, it could be a stroke. Call 911. Get to a hospital. Because how you spend the next 60 minutes could determine how you spend the rest of your life. Stroke. Know the signs. Act in time. A message from the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke.
Inside Sources.
Okay, Holly, I have to admit, this one kind of hit close to home. I was looking at an opinion piece in the Deseret News yesterday. Time is running out to save Social Security. Utah can't afford to wait. Now, it's no secret that I am of Social Security age, and so I've been watching that very closely. I mean, you think about this. You pay into it for years and years and years and years, and then it's time, hey, maybe I can get something back. And maybe the money's running out. But this was a piece written by our next guest, Billy Hesterman, president of the Utah Taxpayer Association, who's joining us now on the line. Billy, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
And tell us what prompted you to write this piece, because you kind of upset me as I woke up yesterday and was having my cup of coffee.
Well, I was once told I'm supposed to be the skunk at the garden party. That's the role of the Taxpayers Association. And just as I've been, talking to the folks that we network with across the country, this is one of those issues that we've all identified together going, hey, no one's talking about Social Security. No one's thinking about what are we going to do when we hit that deadline in 2033. We got to start raising some awareness about it. So hopefully we can get our policymakers to start working on it and find some solutions for us.
I think what struck me, Billy, is A, that you wrote this piece, and B, that 2033 is like 8 years from now. And we're talking about something where it feels like once Social Security was put into place, it just has kind of been on autopilot and people don't think about it. Is that what you're seeing from the federal legislators, right? Or like what's going on? Why aren't people paying attention to this?
Well, I think it goes back to, for the West Wing fans out there, like we've all been taught, right? This is the third rail of politics that you don't touch because nobody wants to do anything on it because you're upsetting someone somewhere. And the reality is we got to start having some of these tough conversations or else we will see those cuts automatically take place in 8 years.
You talk about Social Security, and of course we all think of that as a national thing, but then you say Utah can't afford to wait. What can Utah do?
Well, that's the hard part. We do need to put pressure on our federal delegation to be leaders in this area, to be those that will stand up and say, okay, now we've addressed some of the things that we've campaigned on. Now we need to also be the adults in the room and figure out what to do about this serious cliff that's coming towards us faster than we probably want to admit. As far as what the state could do, the legislature could look at, are there programs that they want to do, safety net programs for our seniors? I don't know if that's the road we really want to go down, but it's something that could be on the table, I suppose, down the road.
So do you, as the president of the Taxpayers Association, Utah Taxpayers Association, do you have recommendations for reforms to Social Security that would make it so we don't fall off that fiscal cliff?
I think I'm open to all options at the moment. Representative Chaffetz, I believe it was about 10 years ago, had a proposal to reform Social Security and make it so it was something that would be available for everyone at the status quo for the next 60-something years. And that policy I don't even think it got a committee hearing. I'm not, I know the bill got introduced, but I think that's about as far as it went. Mm-hmm. And so we just need to have people, I don't even know if you need big minds, but you just need to have minds that are willing to address it and go, here's what we need to do. Do we need to take a look at the retirement age? Do we need to take a look at how much we're paying out? What are all the things we need to do? I think we have years of studies that can really help people, wrap their heads around what to do. We just need someone with the will and the desire to make it happen.
We're talking this morning with Billy Hesterman, president of the Utah Taxpayer Association. And on Friday, Billy, we learned that the One Big Better bill was passed into law.
Beautiful.
And was signed. The House passed it. The Senate did the day before. It's now the law of the land. What can you tell us about that particular legislation as it relates to the future of Social Security?
Well, it didn't address too much other than it gave the senior citizen tax credit in there. It was kind of a workaround that they did in the bill to try to exempt Social Security from federal taxes. And since I guess the rules on reconciliation don't allow for them to exempt it, they then made a tax credit for senior citizens to hopefully eliminate most of their tax burden that they get by receiving Social Security.
Can you remind us what happened with the Utah legislature? Because I know they were talking about not taxing Utah residents on Social Security. Did that pass or not pass?
So what they did is they increased it from, I believe it was at 75,000, and now it moved up to 90,000. So, anyone who's in that income, AGI, their adjusted gross income, when they do their taxes below 90,000, they won't have to pay it on their Social Security, but anyone above it will still have a Utah tax.
Okay, so that's in Utah.
On it.
You said earlier, Billy, that the 2033 deadline is when apparently Social Security benefits could run out. What needs to happen between now and then? And maybe that's an unfair question, but what can our national delegation do to preempt that? Because like Holly said a minute ago, that's 8 years away.
And that's just it. What we need them to do is start talking about it now. We need, Senator Curtis and Senator Lee, and also our House members to step up and say, okay, we've gotten the big beautiful bill taken care of. We now have to take on this next big thing. We need to be problem solvers. And I believe that's who they are. I believe that's who our delegation is they want to be problem solvers, not just game show hosts that are out in Washington just, saying crazy things to draw attention. But I think we have a delegation that wants to solve things. And so they need to come together, get those who are aligned with them, and start saying, here's the solutions that we've come up with. Can we make this work? Do we have the votes to make that happen? I understand it's a political problem. There's a lot of people that don't want to look at something like, well, instead of 65, do they need to be 67 or do they need to be 69? Or do we need to adjust how much money we're paying out? These are hard things that probably people are going to lose their jobs over. But, in the long run, we got to do what's best for the country and for the citizens of the country.
Yeah, I've seen proposals, Billy, that have not gotten traction, but they seem really reasonable to me. I'm 60, and when you talk about moving the Social Security age, I think that's reasonable because when it first came into effect, it was, I think if I remember right, like the average lifespan was, I don't know, maybe 66. It was really not very long after the 65. And that was one of the reasons that Social Security was like, okay, we can fund this, but there's lots of reasons why why it's going to run out of money, right? We're not having as many kids, for one thing. And speaking of kids, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to, sound off on your point. You're right. In 1950, we had 16 workers supporting a Social Security beneficiary. By 2035, it'll just be 2 because we have less people in the workforce.
Yeah.
So that's a problem we'll have to address.
Yeah. So speaking of kids, I wanted to pivot to a couple of changes in the budget bill that just passed, and child tax credit is one of those. Do you want to speak really briefly to that? What happened there?
Yes, we have seen that the child tax credit now has moved up to $2,200 and will increase with inflation over time. So it won't be just a static number, but something that will go up as inflation does. So that'll be a win for families over time.
And it seems like the current level of 1,000 has been there forever. I mean, as long as I can remember, Billy.
Yeah, and the 2017 Trump bill did move it to 2,000, and it was going to expire and go back down to the 1,000. This now moves it up another $200, and is something that should be beneficial to help families have a little more money in their pocket.
And it makes it permanent, but it also is based on income, so it phases out as your family income increases. Right. Okay, and then one last question. In the last few minutes, there was also a Trump kid account. It's only for 3 years, 2025. Actually, I guess it's 4 the 4 years of the Trump administration. Started January 1st retroactively this year and goes until December 31st of 2028. What is the Trump account?
Really interesting idea that they have here is to try to build wealth for the next generations that are coming up. And so it's an account that'll be credited with $1,000 for every U.S. child born January 1, 2025 through that 2028 date. And then families can take those accounts and contribute $5,000 annually into it. And it's indexed into the stock markets so that it'll build over time, kind of like a 529 account that many people have for their college savings for their kids. And this is just to provide them money in their 20s to 30s to allow those kids to have some money to help them go to school, help them buy a house, help them get started with life if it's been invested correctly.
Thanks for joining us, Billy. We've been talking with Billy Hesterman.
Yeah, and when we come back after the break, let's stay on this topic of economy and Utah housing prices, which keep climbing and climbing. Jay Evenson, opinion editor for the Deseret News, says they probably won't stop until this happens. Stay with us.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. Utah State University is partnering with a nonprofit to provide housing services for student veterans. Project Valor is a nonprofit with a goal to get every veteran into housing. Utah State University Executive Director for the Veteran Resource Office, Andy Allen, says it was thanks to their help that they could open a housing unit specifically for student veterans.
Our goal is to just get them off the streets and get them into some stable housing and make being a student a lot easier for them and allow them to be able to find work, and then as they can to be able to pay rent.
They're starting small with one house for now, leaving a bed open for a student veteran struggling with homelessness. But he says if they are successful this year, they hope to expand the program. Government officials are urging national parks work with communities and cities around them more. KSL News Radio's Verl Johansson explains.
These communities and cities outside of national parks are called gateway communities. The Deseret News reports Interior Secretary Doug Burgum issued an order to strengthen relationships between national parks and their surrounding communities last week. The National Park Service says 2.4 million people visited the national parks in southern Utah in 2023, spending nearly $400 million in nearby communities. Burgum says the order will help both national parks and gateway communities be more successful and sustainable by increasing how much they work together. Verl Johansson, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump's deadline for trading partners to reach a deal is on Wednesday. They're hoping it leads to lower tariffs. The president may be giving some countries more time.
Now there's an indication from the Treasury Secretary and the Commerce Secretary that there's flexibility with that July 9th deadline. And the president today is expected to send letters to some U.S. trade partners. He had indicated it's about a dozen countries. The White House hasn't said yet which countries are getting those letters. But those letters would say that these countries have a couple more weeks to come to a deal, August 1st.
ABC News White House correspondent Karen Travers reporting. Your money at this moment, they're definitely affected by those trade talks. The Dow down 1%, 455 points to 44,373. Coming up, it's a warm week after the 4th of July. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 10:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Amanda, we love talking about Utah Community Credit Union. And guess what? They just got news that they saved their members over $40 million in 2024 alone.
And UCCU is opening 4 new branches in the Salt Lake Valley, which means 6 total now. They have 21st South Taylorsville, Sandy, Magna, Harriman, and Draper.
And to celebrate these new branches, UCCU is offering some amazing opportunities. First of all, $150 cash just for setting up direct deposit with your UCCU account.
They'll give you up to $250 cash just for transferring any existing loan from another institution to UCCU.
And here's the big one, giving away 10 amazing prizes, including, get this, a brand new 2025 Jeep Wrangler.
So you heard that right. A brand new Jeep Wrangler could be yours, and no purchase is necessary. You don't even have to be a member.
Anyone can enter. It's easy. All you've got to do is go to uccu.com and sign up. So enter to win today.
UCCU.com. Find out more about Utah Community Credit Union, where you're going to love where you bank.
Everyone loves the look of granite countertops, but they aren't the only option. When it's time to give your kitchen, bathroom, or basement a fresh new look, start at CountertopFactoryLLC.com. Countertop Factory offers high-quality laminate countertops that look amazing and cost just 1/3 of the price of stone. Yeah, you heard that right. 1/3 of the price. And these aren't your grandma's countertops. You'll get that luxurious look and feel without emptying your wallet. And with beautiful varieties of colors and patterns, it's easy to find something affordable and durable that fits your style perfectly. Countertop Factory installs most countertops in only 7 to 10 days from when they measure. That's faster than you can binge watch your favorite series. And it's not just countertops. At Countertop Factory, browse cabinet options to match your new countertops, all professionally installed to ensure everything looks flawless. From homes to offices to schools and hospitals. Get started 24/7 at CountertopFactoryLLC.com. That's CountertopFactoryLLC.com.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit NPSstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. NPSstore.com.
Nothing says summer like double rewards on your Mountain America Rewards credit card. Get 2 times the points on everything from gas and groceries to travel and home projects. Now through July 31st, 2025. It's the perfect way to stretch your dollar and make summer doubly rewarding. Apply for your Mountain America Rewards credit card at macu.com/double. Loans on approved credit. Offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We've got a crash still in the cleanup stages in Sandy. This is on 106 South, right near Auto Mall Drive. That's just east of I-15. And it's blocking a lane, both eastbound and westbound, but it looks like most of the delays have cleared out from that. You still have some slowdowns up in Davis County, southbound I-15, between Kaysville and Farmington, where we have lane restrictions in place there. But for the most part, you've got a pretty good drive everywhere else, especially on major freeways across the Wasatch Front. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, high expected to reach 96 degrees. It's 82 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City right now. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So one of our favorite topics is Utah housing prices because they are just getting so expensive. Starter homes are, well, I guess average prices are now over $500,000 in Salt Lake County, Utah County, and they just keep climbing. And Jay Evenson has been a regular guest of ours since we started the show now 5 weeks ago. And he is here to talk to us about housing prices. He has an article in the Deseret News that's really full of a lot of really interesting and somewhat surprising statistics. So thanks for joining us today, Jay.
Well, thank you, Holly. It's good to be here. Yeah, what caught my eye actually first was in something happening in California. Gavin Newsom, who's the Democratic governor of that state, said he wasn't going to pass the budget bill unless the state legislature would remove or roll back an environmental bill called the California Environmental Quality Act. Now, this was an act signed into law by Ronald Reagan when he was governor of California in the early 70s. It was a different time. People were very worried about the environment, and more so than about the cost of housing. But over time and over the years, this act had allowed people to stop construction projects of all kinds because of all kinds of little nitpicky environmental type concerns. Governor Newsom is thought to be interested in running for president. He has a real housing problem in California, and he has a growing homeless problem. And obviously, this has changed politics in California to where Democrats and Republicans could join together and repeal this law to try to increase the stock of housing. Now, a lot of experts that I read said this isn't the one pill that you need to solve the disease. There are a lot of factors involved. But I found it interesting because there is not only a starter home problem in Utah, which is very large, but there is one all over the country. The entire nation is in the grips of this housing shortage. The best statistic I could find said that Utah has about a 44,000 unit deficit. In other words, there is a demand for about 44,000 more houses than we have in our stock.
Wow.
And it's something we need to address.
Is this Is this a pill that could also help in Utah's housing issues? Jay, you talk about what's happening in California, maybe rolling back some of these restrictions on building. Is that something that could also apply in Utah?
I don't think it's completely analogous, and I don't think we have that type of a law here. But we do have other things that we can do, and this the governor has a goal of providing. I think it's. I can't remember the exact number, but a number of 35,000.
35,000, right.
New starter homes by 2028. And the main issue here is that that's not really something that the state can do. The state can provide incentives and loans and that type of thing. This is a local government issue. This is a local planning and zoning department issue. And whenever you talk about providing more starter homes, which today often means condos, high-density housing, you get a lot of opposition. And there are a lot of local mayors and city council people who worry about losing the election if they approve too much high-density housing. So it does start at that local level. You need to approve the way for more starter homes of all different types in order for this to happen. It takes a certain amount of courage, but you also have to do it appropriately. I don't think, I live in South Jordan, if you put a 20-story condo in there, you would cause all kinds of traffic problems and other concerns. If you put it here along the corridor in downtown Salt Lake and stretching up or down State Street, I think it would be more appropriate. But there are things that smaller communities can do to make starter homes more easy to build.
So what are some of those things they can do?
Well, there are the zoning laws. We have, and there are other things that, of course, out of their control. Mainly when it comes to local governments, it's zoning, planning and zoning. But there are a lot of factors that are making housing unaffordable right now. One of them is the interest rates nationwide. And the fact that if you bought your house at 3% interest, you're not going to sell it and buy another house at 6 or 7% interest. Right. People are hanging on to their housing, and so that's reducing the inventory of available houses. Tariffs is a problem because, particularly tariffs on Canadian lumber. I saw a study that said that was expected to add about $9,200 to the average price of a new home. And of course, those are very uncertain. 1 week they're on, the next week they're off. I couldn't tell you what the tariffs are currently. And the administration's crackdown on immigration, on undocumented immigrants, is a big concern because a lot of home builders rely on undocumented workers for cheap labor to build the houses. And it's created a labor shortage. And a lot of people talk to me and say, well, let's just take the homeless people and give them those jobs. Well, it's not that simple. Mm-hmm. Actually, if you talk to homeless experts, they'll tell you that most people are only homeless for a month or two and they get back on their feet. It's the long-term chronic homeless that are a real concern, and often they have drug abuse and mental illness problems. Don't make them really great candidates for these types of jobs. So there are a lot of concerns and reasons why housing is unaffordable, but we should talk a little bit about how unaffordable it is.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that. The American Enterprise Institute ranks Salt Lake City the nation's second least affordable metro area for first-time home buyers. The only worst is San Jose. Jay, what's going on? I mean, we're worse than San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego.
That's shocking.
It is shocking. And this is the American Enterprise Institute, and they took into account of cost of living in each community. As you well know, every city in the United States has a different cost of living basis. I mean, for everything from the cost of groceries and things that you need every day to the cost of housing, and that measured against income. And it is astounding, and I think it's something that we ought to be very concerned about. The Atlantic published a piece, and they looked at how in the old days I mean just a few years ago, you could count on the coastal cities to have very high housing costs, and that was pushing a lot of people out of those cities and into the interior of the country. Now the interior is turning into the coast, and they cite some statistics in here over the last decade, housing prices in Phoenix have gone up 134%, Miami 133%, Atlanta 129%, Dallas 99%. So I got curious and looked it up because those are Sun Belt cities. We're not in the Sun Belt, but in the Salt Lake County area, they've gone up 108% over that same time. And incomes here are not so bad. You know, the median income in Salt Lake County is about $122,000, but that's gone up about 53% over 10 years. So you compare 53% to 108%.
Right.
We're not keeping up.
Not at all. Yeah, interesting. Well, that was an interesting take, Jay, and thank you for joining us again this morning. You're always so accommodating for us. When we come back after the break, Elon Musk has been outspoken in his criticism of the new budget bill. Now he's claiming he's going to form a new political party to run candidates against Republicans in next year's election cycle. Will it work? We'll discuss that after the break.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
At KSL News Radio, we have a 30-year legacy of honoring Utah teachers, but we can't do it without your help. Please tell us about an important teacher in your life on the KSL Teacher Tribute Wall, presented by Cypress Credit Union. Each month, one lucky teacher wins a $500 gift card from Cypress Credit Union, a $250 gift card to Harmon's, plus season tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Did you have any idea that was going on?
None. I mean, you saw Derek at the game last night, too. Did you have a clue?
No, but you know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do. Kids hear first about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, bullying, violence, anything, you need to tell an adult. Mom or me, a teacher, coach, school counselor, someone you know and trust.
Dad, no kid is gonna tell an adult about that kind of stuff.
I get it, but if we don't know, we can't help. Speaking up about a problem, that's what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful when Mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. I wanted a better relationship with Dad, so I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I'm sure glad I did. Is someone's drinking troubling you? You might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
Sure,
Humans can be a little weird at times, but take it from me, I'm a dog. And a person is about the best thing that can happen to a shelter pet. So if you want to learn how you can be that person, get down to your local pet shelter or visit theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
The on-again, off-again feud between the world's most powerful man, Donald Trump, and the world's richest man, Elon Musk, escalated again over the weekend. This is ABC News Chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl with the details.
Donald Trump's alliance with Elon Musk was already in tatters after Musk attacked Trump's big tax and spending bill. He called it a disgusting abomination. But now Trump is taking aim at Musk's plans to create a new political party that he is calling the America Party.
Third parties have never worked, so he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous.
Minutes later, Trump writing on social media, quote, "I am saddened to watch Elon Musk go completely off the rails, essentially becoming a train wreck."
So what's slightly amusing about this is the public nature of their breakup is still ongoing. But Elon Musk, he came out a few weeks ago really strongly against the One Big Beautiful Bill. And then he kind of went a little bit quiet. And then he came back out a couple of days ago, just really blasting the bill and the people who were supporting it. And he just said, okay, that's it. I'm forming a new party. I'm calling it the American Party. And we know America wants, it's something like 80+% or something of Americans think there should be a different party, but it just doesn't seem to work.
Right. And I think that most of Americans have thought that for years and years and years, but it doesn't seem to work. The last time we had a viable third-party candidate, if you recall, was in 1996. Ross Perot ran for president under the Reform Party of the United States. He ran in 92. He ran again in 96. In 92, he actually got 18.9% of the popular vote, which is significant for a third party, but not going to get you into the White House. He didn't win a single electoral vote. He didn't win a single state, obviously, but he came in second in some states.
Yeah, I think Utah was
including
one of those.
Utah.
Yeah.
He won a couple of counties across the country, and then he ran again in 96, where he got less than half of that, 8.4% of the vote. So yeah, I mean that third party idea, the third party candidate thing hasn't particularly worked well. But let me just play devil's advocate for a minute. Let's say that Musk does what he says he's going to do and creates a third party and decides to focus his efforts on the House and the Senate, the U.S. House and Senate, and that his goal is to perhaps get 2 or 3 senators, 5 or 6 House members. That could be a significant group to have if you're caucusing with the Democrats or Republicans, so that if neither party ends up with a majority and Musk's group has the deciding vote, so to speak,
they become the power players.
They become a little more powerful.
Yeah. It's interesting, and it's an interesting discussion. I think the last time we switched parties might have been when the Republican Party, I think, overtook the Whigs. I mean, it was a long, long time ago. But the way the the way the national political system is set up in the United States is that it just lends itself to the two-party system. Because of that, we have regular elections. We know that in 4 years it's going to be like this. And in countries where you've got multi-party systems, and then you have really this representation, proportional representation when you get into their governing bodies, you can sometimes have snap elections, right? And they'll call a snap election, and you may have 7 weeks or something like that. And then you've got people from all these different parties, right, who create a coalition government. The United States doesn't have a coalition government. We have a two-party system that until something else changes, we're going to continue to have a two-party system. But I think your point is really valid, that he could, if Elon Musk really focused a lot of his money, and he's got a ton of it, on some vulnerable seats and flipped them to a third party, they could start to become the power brokers in the nation.
Yeah, and I wonder, first of all, how serious he is about that, because it would be expensive. I mean, he's certainly got money.
I think he's serious.
And And some people are saying it's an attack against Republicans, and because of his feelings about the One Big Better bill. He calls it a disgusting abomination. But it could affect both sides. I mean, there's no reason to think that he's going to take Republican votes away. But it seems like Donald Trump is thinking that when he says he can have fun with it. But I think it's ridiculous.
Well, I think Elon has already been clear that he wants to target Republicans, so that's probably why. If he primaries Republicans who voted for this bill, because remember, they're supposed to be the party of fiscal responsibility. That was the whole idea behind DOGE. And the DOGE cuts is we're going to, bring this fiscal responsibility to the nation's capital. And then, of course, they pass a bill that increases the debt limit, increases the deficit, increases the spending. I can see his point.
Yeah. So let me talk to you more about Ross Perot a little bit too, and that thing, because you're right. I can see Musk's point too, and he does have something going right now. I don't remember what was happening in 92 or 96, but there must have been something that at least got some momentum for that particular candidate. Maybe it was just the disgust overall with what's happening in the country. But, I mean, it would seem to me in that respect, and I know I'm talking in circles already, that Musk might be capitalizing on a time in our country when the divisiveness is such that maybe a group of Americans, 20%, 25%, are willing to consider a third party something a little more centrist.
Yeah, again, people have been dissatisfied with the two-party system for a very long time, including their founding fathers who really warned against a two-party system, that it would factionalize the country, which it has. So when Ross Perot ran, he wanted, I think, to really focus on, interestingly, the federal budget. So economic nationalization, and he wanted to come out hard against the war on drugs, which was actually quite interesting, right? So he was wealthy enough that he could finance his own campaign, but the people who he ran against in that first race, George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton, right? And he wasn't happy with either one, and he had enough money to really make a go at it. But even then, less than 20%, no electoral votes. I mean, he got his name out there, but it didn't really go anywhere.
But you think of a couple of people, just some names that come to mind, like Joe Manchin, like Mitt Romney, yep. People that probably wouldn't do it in this day and age particularly well in their primary or in their caucuses, but would do really well in terms of the state as a whole.
Look, that's the idea, right? But if you remember during the last election cycle, there was a little bit of a movement from No Labels, an organization, again, trying to say we're not going to be so partisan. But they couldn't recruit any top name. They thought they could. They thought they could recruit a top name and then maybe make a bipartisan ticket, and they could run on this No Labels label. And it didn't work. It didn't materialize. And I think that's what we see over and over. A lot of movement, a lot of talk about wouldn't it be great if, and then when it actually comes down to the votes, they're just not there.
Yeah, and I think we saw the Evan McMullin experiment, although it wasn't necessarily a third candidate. He was running as an independent.
Without a party.
And people got excited about that. The Democrats didn't even put up a showing.
I think he came in number 2 in Utah, yeah.
Right, no, but I mean when he ran, even in Utah itself, when he ran, he did well in Utah in the presidential race, right? But I mean when he ran for Senate,
right?
Even more recently,
right?
As a sort of as a third party. I mean, but he didn't. The numbers were disappointing. He didn't get numbers, as I recall, that would have been better than a faceless Democrat. Let's say a Democrat.
Right.
You can derogatory, but you know what I mean.
You can plan on Democrats getting about 35% of the vote in an election,
and he got about 35% of the vote.
So that's one of the issues, right? I think in Utah we have a movement. In fact, this is a national movement, and it united 2 parties in Utah. So we have the Forward Party, which is a national thing, and just earlier this year we had the United Utah Party combine with the Forward Party, and so now we have a Utah Forward Party. We actually have one member of the Utah legislature who's in this third party, and it's Senator Dan Thatcher, who left the Republican Party to join this third party, just saying, look, the Republican Party no longer represents what I believe in, and it's not me who's changed, it's the party that's moved. And I think a lot of people feel like that, but does it actually translate into people holding electoral office? Not often.
Yeah, not very often. And I think that we even had an attorney general candidate the last session that ran
Michelle
associated
Quist.
with that,
Yep.
Michelle Quist, who was very popular but didn't get the votes I think that she expected. When we come back after the break, the nation is still talking about this deadly flash flood in Texas, and the blame game has already begun. Is it justified? We'll talk about the latest coming up next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jessica Lowell. KSL's top story this hour, the body of the person who went missing at Huntington State Park has been found. The Emery County Sheriff's Office says they were called to the park to help find a drowning victim yesterday afternoon. They say crews used sonar technology to help them in the search. Officials have not released the person's name. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. All of the missing have been found dead after a firework explosion at a warehouse in Northern California.
Nearly a week after the massive fireworks explosions in Yolo County, now the remains of 7 victims have been recovered at the charred warehouse site. Since the explosions, family members of the 7 had been holding out hope that they were somehow alive. The warehouse was managed by a pyrotechnic company. Many of the fireworks were to be used at community fireworks shows on the 4th of July. CAL FIRE and the ATF are working to figure out what set off all those fireworks. Alex Stone, EBC News.
Fire officials say the Forsyth fire burning in southern Utah is now 47% contained. Officials say the fire has burned nearly 14,000 acres, but crews are making progress. And your money at this moment, the Dow down 105 points, the NASDAQ off 193. Coming up, temperatures in the upper 90s. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Are you struggling with pain in your feet, ankles, knees, hips, or lower back? At the Good Feet store, we recommend having high-quality support in all of your shoes. Our personalized arch support system has helped countless people find relief, like Karen. Here is her Good Feet story.
After I decided my pain was too much, and my doctor actually suggested that I do visit the Good Feet store. Pretty amazing when they put the arch supports in your shoe and you walk around and you realize there's not pain and you think, how can this arch support in my shoe make my back pain go away? But it works. And how can it make my knee pain go away? It was incredible.
Come to the Good Feet store today and see what we can do for you. Good Feet arch supports are in stock and available in over 300 different styles and sizes.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Stop in today at the Good Feet store.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We've got pretty good speeds all across the Wasatch Front, especially on I-15. The only slowing you may see from time to time is southbound I-15, leaving Kaysville, heading through Farmington. That is due to construction and lane restrictions right around the old Shepherd Lane Bridge. Otherwise, you're going to have a good drive coming out of Tooele County right now on SR 36, I-80, and no problems getting through Parleys Canyon at the moment. All tickets are on sale now, so claim your spot and start planning your perfect Park City night. Details at DeerValleyMusicFestival.org. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures in the upper 90s until Wednesday. We'll get a little bit of relief later this week. Highs in the low 90s Thursday and Friday. Right now it's 82 degrees and sunny. I'm Jessica Lowell from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com or Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We're continuing our coverage of the big news over the weekend, Holly, which was the tragic flooding in Texas, central Texas, where the Guadalupe River rose 26 feet. Imagine that, 26 feet in 45 minutes. I mean, and it's affected, the number of people missing, the number of deaths has increased just since we've started this show. And the flood problems continue there because the weather system hasn't let up.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's a miracle here is how many people survived, right? How many lives were saved? It's in the hundreds. I have to tell you, I have a personal connection to this. I have a son who lives outside of Austin, Texas, and there were 2 1,000-year rain events over the weekend, and one of them was where we have seen the campers who were washed away on that tragedy along the Guadalupe River. But the other one was up outside of Austin, and he sent me pictures yesterday of a park that's close to his house. It's completely underwater, like it's up into the mid treetops, and these are tall trees. And I had a conversation with him yesterday, and we both got emotional as he's telling me he had people that he knew where the kids were sending text messages to their parents saying, "I love you," thinking this might be the last time they talk to them. Now, thankfully, those people that he knew personally were saved, but these are really, really serious tragedies, and it's something that can hit home. If you're a parent and you have ever sent your kids away to girls' camp or scout camp or on trek or something, if you were a parent who had to get the news that there has been a flash flood and your child is missing and then discovered dead, just the worst.
Yeah, 10 girls and a counselor are still missing at Camp Mystic, a Christian camp where 750 girls woke up to rushing water through their cabins. Here's ABC's Matt Gutman in Kerrville, Texas.
At Camp Mystic,
it was just a normal day.
Camp counselor Devin Williams filming the day's festivities before the tragedy struck. And when the sun rose, an apocalyptic scene. Muddy mattresses, those bent bunk beds, and sodden pink comforters.
I didn't even realize the gravity of the situation until we saw helicopters flying over us.
Devin and the surviving campers bust to safety.
Yeah, ABC's Andrew Dimbert tells us how the tragedy unfolded early on Friday, Independence Day.
The first alerts went out just after 1 a.m. Friday. By 4:03 a.m., a flash flood emergency, the river surging 26 feet in less than an hour. Piers Boyett among hundreds of campers caught as waters overturned cabins and tore through campsites.
My brother here, he had to swim out of his cabin. We have bunk beds in our cabins, and it was going up to the top bunk.
At Camp Mystic, floodwaters destroying bunk beds, leaving everything covered in mud. At least 27 girls and a counselor were swept away.
So far we know 28 children have died. There's at least 90 people total. So we're also talking about other family members who have lost loved ones. In fact, I read a story about a young man who died saving his family. He was able to get them into the rafters and they were saved, but he cut himself and it was an arterial bleed and he bled out just in the floodwaters while he was saving his family, right? There's lots of stories like that, unfortunately.
Oh, and we're going to continue to get those. We spoke earlier today with Kevin Eubank, who told us how flooding like this escalates the way that it did.
These rivers can swell with large rainstorms. That's what they're supposed to do. But what made this one so different was the amount of rain that came, which was huge. They picked up 4 to 5 months of rain in a matter of hours. And that equated to 7, 8, 9, 10 inches of rain. And then it happened in an overnight period. So all that water flow that came, it swelled and caused that river to rise and spread. So they had at one point a 20-foot rise on that river and a swell that came down that river of 40 to 50 feet.
Wow.
And so what that does is it causes that river to expand width-wise and go into places that it doesn't normally go, and it has debris, and it has depth, deeper than it's ever been. And that's why places like Camp Mystic and these others that were along that river, that's why they were impacted. That's why there was such great loss of life, is these campers were sleeping.
Yeah, and it's hard to imagine, Holly, because you and I have both done it. Send your kid away to camp.
Yeah.
They're always on a beautiful setting, often close to a river or something that gives them some recreation outlets, and all of a sudden you get a call saying there's been a flash flood and you're trying to get in touch with your kid. I mean, I can't even imagine what these parents are going through.
So my son said that in his area, they got 11 inches of rain in 24 hours. And then he said, for context, the entire year, last year, 2024, they got 16 inches. So they had already been in a drought. They got 11 inches in 24 hours. It was like hitting concrete because the ground couldn't absorb the rainwater. And just, I mean, that downpour. One of the things that's interesting is that we heard this camper, the counselor, say, I didn't realize how serious it was, right? And that's what my son said, is that he had a couple of extended family members, his brothers-in-law down there, who saw a road closed sign and they just ignored it and went on the road anyway because they thought, well, nothing bad's ever happened before, and they were able to make it through. But there's a reason that there are signs and warnings, right? Is you got to take them seriously.
And Texas Senator Ted Cruz talked about the warnings that were in effect in this particular situation.
We will have a reasonable conversation about, are there any ways to have earlier detection? And some of that, the limits of a flash flood, they're very difficult because they can arise so quickly.
Yeah, and of course there were warnings out, and people then will second guess, why didn't we know sooner? Why didn't we know? Why weren't those warnings more vociferous, I guess?
Right.
But we get them all the time. I mean, I told you this weekend we're down in central Utah, and there's flash flood alerts at some of the national parks rather. And I mean, because we get those so often, we sometimes think of those not as being all that serious.
Right.
And it doesn't apply to me because I'm not down in the slot canyon.
Right.
But you don't have to be right in the gut of the canyon to get the brunt of the storm.
There are people who die in canyons in Utah every year, I think, from these flash floods. But look, as we talked about going into the segment, we talked about the blame game. That has already begun, and it is happening on both sides. Republicans and Democrats are pointing fingers and sharing blame and, pinning deaths on people for political reasons. And this is my advice. Just stop it. This is not the time. And Ted Cruz struck the right tone there to just say, this is not the time. We will have a time to discuss these. What can we do better? What can we learn? But this is not the time.
Yeah, and people will always be second guessing and making it political, and politicizing what's going on. And you're right. This isn't the time. And I got to hand it to him. He said that numerous times in his press conference.
He
and
did.
He's been talking off and on since then. And a lot of the authorities down there, it seems like people are working together. It seems like the national government has jumped in. Local authorities are doing what they can. I think that Ted Cruz said there were just
hundreds of first responders there.
A number of, as soon as he called the administration, of course, there were helicopters in the air. But they're still looking. The floodwaters don't seem to be residing very much. People are still looking for their children. Hopefully we'll find more and more survivors. There have been a number found, but this just continues to get worse by the minute. And it's something, you start the weekend, it's the 4th of July, and what a great time to be camping with your friends. What a great time to be at a camp, and then it ends with the worst tragedy you can imagine. When we come back after the break, there were some new developments from the Department of Justice and the FBI in the Jeffrey Epstein case. You won't want to miss them when we come back.
Are you looking for a fun way to get your kids outside and off their screens this spring? Try flower gardening. Starting a beautiful flower bed or easy container garden is a great hands-on way to spend quality time together while teaching kids about nature. They'll love digging in the dirt, picking out their favorite flowers, and watching them bloom, all while making real, lasting memories. Plus, gardening is a great way to slow down, soak up some sunshine, and enjoy the fresh air as a family. This is Brian with Olson's Greenhouse, and my family has been growing flowers with care for 4 generations right here in Utah. Whether you have a big sunny backyard or just a small shady front porch, our colorful, locally grown flowers make it easy to add beauty to your home. So this spring, start with a new family tradition, one that grows with your kids. Get inspiration at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens on Instagram or find a garden center near you at ogg.com. That's ogg.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens.
1847, our home Utah takes shape. A century later, Utah's home champion is born. Since 1947, Whipple Service Champions has earned the trust of over 250,000 Utah homeowners, with techs who rise above to deliver award-winning heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. Championing the spirit of 47, Whipple is offering $47 off any home repair or service, including drain clearings. Act now and call Whipple Service Champions at 801-896-1947 for the win today.
Progressive knows we all crave validation.
Girl, you are not 37.
I would have guessed 27.
You guys are too sweet.
Sure, dewy skin. Terrific.
Is something wrong, Ned?
Why would you ask? Just because today marks my 10th anniversary without a car accident or even a speeding ticket? But somehow, tonight's all about your skincare.
Wow. With Snapshot from Progressive, you can get a personalized rate based on how you drive. And that's all the validation you need. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California or from all agents. Surcharge possible for unsafe driving.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
It's Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I've got something important to talk to you about, your 401k. If you have changed jobs, there are 2 very important considerations. You don't want to leave your 401k behind, and you don't want to roll it over into your new company plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. 401ks will often have limited investments or age-based options. Since companies have to make choices to suit all employees, they may not be suited to you, which could cost you fees and money. When you roll over your 401k into an IRA, you not only keep your money growing tax deferred, but you also gain access to a world of investment options specifically designed for you. Trajan Wealth and our fiduciary advisors have helped thousands, and we can do the same for you. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
The Salt Lake Chamber is Utah's voice for business. Okay, that sounds great, but what does it really mean? Well, as Utah's largest and longest-standing business association, they support and champion community prosperity throughout the state. And if you're in business, well, that's a very good thing for you. Be sure to listen to the Chamber's Speaking on Business, weekdays at 7:20, 11:55, and 5:20 p.m. on KSL News Radio.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol.
If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Do you remember the notorious Jeffrey Epstein? And we've all been sort of waiting for the Epstein files. For our listeners who are unfamiliar or have forgotten about him, he was charged with sex trafficking involving some underage females and some purportedly high-profile clients that he would get together. And he was indicted, waiting for sex trafficking charges, and he died allegedly, apparently, by suicide in a Manhattan jail. Here's ABC's Andrew Dimbert with more.
According to a memo detailing the findings, investigators found the video showed no one entering the area in the overnight hours before Epstein was found unresponsive. But perhaps the biggest bombshell, investigators say they found no incriminating client list of Epstein's, no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals, and no evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. For years, Epstein has been at the center of conspiracies surrounding both his death and a rumored client list allegedly used to blackmail powerful men.
And this is absolutely not going to help that theory that there may be a conspiracy. So we've been waiting for the Epstein files. We've been talking about whether that information is going to come out. Suddenly, the FBI said no credible evidence that he. I mean,
Look,
that's pretty stunning.
So here's the issue. President Donald Trump's name has apparently been on that list, right? So there's multiple sources who said, I've seen the files, his name's on the list. He went multiple times. Here's photos of him on Epstein Island. Well, now there's no list, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that this is good for anyone at all because, I mean, somebody saw the list. Somebody saw some names.
Multiple people have seen the list.
I mean, I wonder if there is a list somewhere, if somebody copied it.
Look, Pam Bondi, Attorney General for the United States, in February, if you remember, there was this big show of walking out holding these great big binders, or like multiple people carrying the binder saying, here's the Epstein list. We're going to give you all this information. We're going to release it publicly. And now she's one of the people saying, no, there's nothing there and there's going to be no charges. Nothing's happening here.
Right. And of course, the president has been confronted by numerous sources over the years. Will you release the Epstein files? And he said, well, you release the Kennedy files, will you release other files?
Right.
Yeah. Gets to Epstein. He goes, well, we'll see about that. We'll have to talk about that at the appropriate time.
Look, the story is making some heads explode. There are people who for years have been saying that of course, Epstein did not kill himself, that there were conspiracies about why he was left alone in his cell, that, you know, there were people in high positions of power that had him taken out. And now we have the Department of Justice and the FBI saying, no, it was suicide. Nobody entered the cell. It was just him. And there's no client list. And so people have gone to jail over related charges, like Giselle Max Lane, who is his compatriot.
Right.
And she's sitting in jail. She's sitting in prison because of the charges here. And yet now we have the official word is nothing happened. There's nothing to see here. In fact, it reminds me of Star Wars. These are not the drones you're looking for. This is not the list you're looking for.
Yeah, there's nothing here. Go about your way. I mean, that's really, this story cannot possibly be over, and hopefully records are not missing. I hope that what's out there is still there, and those big files that Bondi was carrying are still available to someone, or that someone who's looked at them before can recount what was there. And I don't know that it's that important, except that it's sort of interesting and titillating,
you know,
I guess, that people want to hear about it.
I think it's more than that, right? Because we have, like, Prince Andrew across the pond. He basically was stripped of his position in the royal family because of his connection with Epstein and underage girls.
Right. And we know that Bill Clinton has been linked to Epstein. Donald Trump has been linked to Epstein. Like you say, Prince Andrew. There are probably other prominent people that I'm missing here. Epstein was just, by all accounts, a disgusting man.
Right.
And the more we hear and read about him, the more we're concerned about that. And so people wanted this information. People, and what's another thing that's shocking? He dies in 2019. I mean, that's 6 years ago, and we're just now saying, oh,
there's no list.
We come through the files. There's nothing here. I mean, it's really I don't know. I don't know what's happening here. But I want to go. There's apparently a White House briefing going on right now as we speak about the deadly Texas flooding. Can we just go to that real quickly?
The situation on the ground remains dangerous, and there could be additional public safety threats with potential incoming heavy rain. So we encourage everyone in the area to remain vigilant, listen to all warnings, and respond accordingly. Unfortunately, in the wake of this once-in-a-generation natural disaster, we have seen many falsehoods pushed by Democrats such as Senator Chuck Schumer and some members of the media. Blaming President Trump for these floods is a depraved lie, and it serves no purpose during this time of national mourning. Here are the facts. In the lead-up to this tragic natural disaster, the National Weather Service did its job. Despite unprecedented rainfall, the National Weather Service executed timely and precise forecasts and warnings. On July 3rd, the National Weather Service office in Austin, San Antonio, Texas, conducted forecast briefings for emergency management in the morning and issued a flood watch in the early afternoon. Flash flood warnings were also issued on the night of July 3rd and in the early morning of July 4th, giving preliminary lead times of more than 3 hours before flash flooding conditions occurred. And the National Weather Service office in New Braunfels, which delivers forecasts for Austin, San Antonio, and the surrounding areas, had extra staff on duty during the storms, despite claims of the contrary. So to any person who has deliberately lied about these facts surrounding this catastrophic event, you should be deeply ashamed. At this time, the administration's focus will be on giving the victims and their communities the support they deserve during these recovery efforts in this tragic time. May God bless the great people of Texas, especially the parents who have lost their children. President Trump loves you. We are praying for you, and he will be traveling to see you later this week. Moving along to some further scheduling announcements. Tonight, President Trump will host the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, for dinner.
We've been listening to Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, talk to us about the floods in Texas and trying to get some information out, Holly, about some disinformation that's apparently been going. You know, we talked earlier about Ted Cruz keeping this as apolitical as possible. I think we just had a huge shift in that mentality.
That was not apolitical, but again, the blame game. So we'll have an opportunity to talk about that at some point, but now's not the time, right? So I think the important takeaways are there's ongoing threats, there are ongoing efforts, and the weather is not helping right now.
Right, and you would expect a White House briefing. We may be hearing from President Trump before the show is over, but I mean we're just continuing to get. And I can't believe, Holly, the more I watch the TV screens with the carnage, with the devastation. I mean, trucks tipped over, houses floating down the river.
Right.
I mean,
exactly, running into bridges. You know, and that's the thing is we sometimes feel I think a little bit insulated from how powerful Mother Nature can be, right? Until you see stuff like this, right? It's like that was a rainstorm that not only cost lives, but it took houses off their foundation. It swept vehicles down. It, like, in literally minutes, went from well below a bridge to over the top of a bridge. I mean, it's the things you see in movies, right? Where you think, oh, this is fiction, but it's not. It's real.
And I haven't heard... I was listening to the press secretary talk about some comments by Chuck Schumer and others. I'm not familiar with those. I'm not saying they didn't occur, but this would be a terrible time for Democrats to take a shot at anyone involved in this, because this was just a tragedy. And the National Weather Service did what it thought was correct at the time, issuing warnings. And so this isn't the fault of any political party, and hopefully we don't go too far down that rabbit hole. But it's time to move forward and try to create or save as many people as we can and rescue as many people as we can and try to put that village or that town back in order.
Right. And again, it's affected multiple counties, multiple communities, and the weather events are still occurring.
Yeah, just a real tragedy. Well, hey, I want to tell you something. Do you know what happens in 5 weeks? 5 weeks from today?
I actually do.
School starts up again. I mean, that's good for
crazy.
That's good for a lot of parents. I'm a grandparent, so it doesn't matter to me. I like it when the kids are out of school. But mom and dad not so crazy about it. And when we come back after the break, we're going to speak with Amy Harmer, who needs some help from the community in filling thousands of backpacks. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk to her, talk about what she needs them for, and how you can help. Stay with us.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. The death toll from catastrophic flooding in Texas has risen to 87. Search and rescue efforts continue today for the dozens of people still missing.
Search and rescue crews have been working around the clock. They've been tagging every location that they've been to, but the debris field is huge. And at this home, someone is literally shoveling mud out of their house. And he was telling me it has never flooded this high before. He said it went halfway up to the second story.
ABC's Jacqueline Lee reporting. As we follow the Texas flood tragedy, National Weather Service hydrologist Glenn Merrill says it brings to mind a similar deadly flash flood here in Utah.
September of 2015, a series of thunderstorms moved through southern Utah, the Hilldale area, and then into Zion National Park. And in the state of Utah, we had 20 fatalities in one day.
Merrill says our southern Utah landscape makes flash flooding a real threat here, especially in areas where red rocks transition into mountains and large watersheds can funnel in. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 453 points. The S&P is down 48 points. And coming up, a high of 96 today. KSL Weather's next KSL News Time, 11:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owe the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louie.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Register for Jazz Youth Camps and Clinics. Brought to you by PB Fit. Whether you're a beginner interested in learning basketball basics or an advanced player wanting to hone your skills and techniques, there's a camp for you.
Let's go!
All kids ages 4 to 17 are welcome. You'll get the chance to learn directly from Utah Jazz Camps and Clinics coaches and jazz personalities at select camps at various locations throughout Utah. Even the Jazz Practice Facility. If you love the Jazz and the game of basketball, this is an opportunity you can't miss out on. Register for your spot now at jazzyouth.com.
For nearly 70 years, Les Olson IT has been the trusted name for businesses. From state-of-the-art printers and copiers to managed IT services, we have the solutions you need to stay ahead in today's world. And now Les Olson IT is trusted and licensed in Utah for security systems, for technology that helps you work smarter. Les Olson IT, providing solutions that empower your business.
Les Olson IT.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit NPSstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. NPSstore.com.
Five guys walk into a JCW's and order burgers, a pastrami, a mushroom Swiss, a guacamole bacon, a hickory barbecue, a ribeye steak, 2 onion rings, 3 French fries, a strawberry, mint, peanut butter, chocolate, and marshmallow shake, and not one left to tip. Because at JCW's, we don't ask for it. We think the price you see should be the price you pay. And all that, would you like to leave a tip stuff, is for the birds. JCW's. Quality and a lot of it. Open in American Fork, Lehigh, Provo, South Jordan, and Harriman.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Ricky Meese.
Salt Lake County Freeway seeing a nice and quiet drive southbound I-15 in Davis County. Another day of construction delays, and that's from Kaysville down to Farmington. Also some unusual slowing both directions of Highway 89 between 27th North and North Ogden and the South Willard area, and Salt Lake City PD wrapping up a crash at 10th West and 9th South. Traffic's rough, but your parking lot doesn't have to be. GoPave Utah keeps things smooth with expert asphalt maintenance at GoPaveUtah.com. That's GoPaveUtah.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 96 today with sunny skies. High of 99 expected on Wednesday as a breeze rolls in. Then we're back down to the low 90s and partly cloudy skies on Thursday. Right now it is 84 and sunny. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com, your Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So every year I'm always surprised at how quickly summer vacation goes. But I wanted to share with you, Greg, before we bring on our next guest, this last weekend, so we're heading into the 4th of July. We haven't even hit the 4th of July yet. Temperatures are in the 90s. We're pushing maybe 100 this week. And I want to get a doormat that's a summer-themed doormat to put outside my front door. So I go into the craft store. What do I see? Pumpkins.
Yeah.
And fall leaves. And even turkeys for Thanksgiving. And on the top shelf, I see Christmas stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this can't be happening yet. No summer stuff. It's gone. It's gone.
It's time for back to school.
I go into Walmart. Fall stuff. One tiny section of back to school stuff, but I'm seeing Halloween decorations. I'm starting to see a few Halloween costumes, and I'm like, my brain cannot process this. So before we get to fall and pumpkins, we do have back to school, and it seems like it's coming earlier and earlier every year. It feels like that. And so
I'm surprised at you a little bit.
Yes?
Because last week you tortured me every day with Christmas in July. And I was like, Holly, don't go down this road.
But
and
it's too early.
I'm even down in southern Utah, and there's this big Christmas in July thing, and they took all the shopping carts out and filled them with ornaments and stuff like that.
Oh,
I'm like,
my goodness.
I have to send this to Holly. I sent you the picture.
It's so funny. It is so funny. And look, so I start listening to Christmas music in the fall, but it has to start being a little bit cooler. I can't listen while it's still so hot. Okay, so that's a true confession. So anyway, so what we have in Utah is we actually have a really fairly large refugee population. We have over 65,000 refugees who live in Utah, and a lot of them are children, and they have to go to school. And one of the things that the Utah Refugee Connection does every year is they will ask the community to help fill these backpacks and then be able to give them out to these refugee families. And I've participated in that. It's really, it's fun and it's really meaningful. But because school is starting earlier and earlier, filling these backpacks happen in the off month of July, where everybody thinks about the 4th of July and in Utah and Pioneer Day. And then it's like, oh, wait, we're up to the deadline already. So joining us is Amy Harmer from the Utah Refugee Connection to talk about the help she needs in filling thousands of backpacks. Hi, Amy.
I'm so excited to be here with you, Greg and Holly. I thank you so much for what you do and keep people informed and engaged in a variety of ways. So grateful to be on today and tell you a little bit about what we're doing to get all of these students prepared for back to school. I know, Holly, you can relate to what it's like to have to prepare to have your kids be ready both physically and emotionally for back to school. And, 40% of refugees are children. children, so we have 65,000. That's a lot of children to have ready for back to school. And a lot of these parents don't have the means to be able to provide all the things that most individuals provide for their kids for back to school. So we'd love to let your listeners know how they can get involved.
So talk to us about that, Amy. For when I first started looking at this, I thought you needed 3,000 backpacks. You need to fill 3,000 backpacks. Tell us what you need, or do you need both? All of the above?
Yeah, we've figured out the best way. First of all, we do need 3,000 backpacks of all different sizes and colors, and we'd prefer quality over quantity. I mean, these are backpacks that kids use, and they frequently are using them more than for just school. So we need all fun backpacks, just like your kids love to pick out backpacks. So we need 3,000 of those. And then we actually have figured out a way to buy all the school supplies close to cost. So people can donate $25 to sponsor a refugee child. And all the information is on our social media feed, on serverefugees.org or on Serve Refugees on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And what we'd love to do is have families take their kids and pick out a backpack that they think a refugee would like and then bring it to our share house. Like I said, they can sponsor the items to go inside for $25. And new this year, we are doing some simple hygiene bags that have just a toothbrush, toothpaste, and dental floss for elementary, and then for secondary, a toothbrush, toothpaste, dental floss, and deodorant. And we're adding those to the bags. But the school supplies we are actually able to get if people donate $25 to sponsor a child. And the backpacks are just a fun way to let a child know in our community that might not have the same resources we do, that we see you, you're safe here, we're supporting your effort, and we hope you'll be successful. It's so fun. We have our giant event on August 7th, so we need these backpacks by July 28th. And as soon as those kids put on a backpack that they get to pick out, and then they're given the bag of school supplies that go inside, you should just see their faces. They're just so excited, and you can also see the look of relief on their parents' faces that they know their kids are ready and excited to start school.
Yeah, Amy, I have been to the big event that you do to hand things out, and it's well controlled, but it's chaos, right? It's well controlled chaos.
It's tricky when you have over 2,000 individuals coming to get the school supplies they need, and refugees families coming. It's really beautiful, but the carnival is crazy. We have snow cones, we have cotton candy, we have immunization trucks, we have eye screenings, we have shoes. But it also is so beautiful to see these kids put on this backpack that just enables them to feel hope and excitement for school. And like I said, the parents feel this sense of relief that they don't have to provide these items for their kids, and that they are starting the year with, optimism and hope and joy. So we'd love to get as many backpacks as we can, and you can bring them to our share house on Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 until 2 o'clock. And we're hoping to get as many as we can by Monday, July 28th. People can also call our share house for more information, and that number is 951-916-4439. But we just love how Utah is such a welcoming place, and many of us know what it's like to flee or have ancestors that flee a place where they're not safe. And if we can create a warm and welcoming environment here for our refugee friends, it makes such a difference.
Amy, did you say that there's a drop-off location that people could drop things off?
Yes, our drop-off location is our share house, and it's 3134 South, 300 East in South Salt Lake. And that's Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 until 2 o'clock. you can go to our website at serverefugees.org or on our social media feeds, Serve Refugees, and all the information is there. We also have a lot of drop spots across the Wasatch Front where people can take things, so there might be something really close to you. And we just are so excited to get these kids ready to go for back to school and help these refugee families feel the support and connection to their community.
Thanks for talking with us this morning, Amy. That's Amy Harmer, the Executive Director of the Utah Refugee Connection.
What an incredibly worthwhile cause, and I hope people got that information. If not, you can go on to our, listen to our podcast or replay this back, and you can get all that information. It's Utah Refugee Connection, serverefugees.org. If you've ever eaten a homegrown tomato, and I have, I used to grow them a lot, you know how much better they taste than the mass-produced ones sold in stores. We'll talk about a farm-to-table movement connecting communities, plus Holly's fun facts of the day. We've got a few of them today. Join us.
You bought a house, or maybe you're building one, but it just isn't feeling like home. Not yet. AMC Building Materials has this undeniable knack for transforming a house into a home, your home. How do they do that? They combine years of exceptional kitchen and bath creations with your ideas. In fact, customer satisfaction is their #1 priority. You know what you want. You know it's not going to be cookie cutter, and this is exactly where AMC shines. AMC delivers exceptional quality, bold-style kitchen and bath designs, along with their exceptional value and a timeline you'll love. Most projects are complete by the elite AMC professional installers in under 10 days. Immerse yourself in the beauty, function, and feel in person at the AMC Building Materials showroom in Salt Lake City. Get directions and schedule your free estimate at amckitchenslc.org. AMC Building Materials, transforming your house into a home. amckitchenslc.org.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that, and third-party testing confirms it. Stable is the industry leader in preventing fuel-related issues, no matter if you use it in your car, boat, or outdoor power equipment. In season or out, at every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Salt Lake City International Airport is the 23rd busiest airport in the United States and 86th busiest in the world. With over 330 daily flights to 100 nonstop destinations, it continues to grow rapidly. Executive Director Bill Wyatt joins us with more.
Almost 5 years ago, Salt Lake City unveiled the first phase of the new SLC airport, and each fall has opened more gates, shops, and restaurants, including the central tunnel connecting A and B concourses. Since opening, the new SLC has been recognized nationally with numerous awards and accolades, including second place by USA Today readers for Best Airport Dining. More gates means we can attract new airlines and offer more flights to more destinations, domestically and internationally. This June, Delta began nonstop service to Seoul, South Korea, opening access to Asia. With only 2 years of construction left, we're on our final approach, and this October we'll unveil 10 more gates and 6 new concessions featuring local favorites like Aubergine Kitchen, Monarcha, and a Utah National Park store, along with a second sensory room. We look forward to welcoming you to SLC this summer and invite you to learn more at slcairport.com.
Salt Lake City International Airport continues to offer smooth operations, strong connections, and modern facilities. Serving millions annually, it makes travel easy and keeps growing to provide more destinations and better experiences for passengers. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
On the surface, it seemed like just another Cinderella story.
A team that was predicted to finish dead last is now waiting to play the first round of the playoffs.
But Real Salt Lake's 2021 playoff run was so much more than what happened on the pitch.
Our club is burning to the ground.
This is the tip of the iceberg. Making of a Moment, the RSL story, is available now.
I just kind of got chills right now thinking about it.
Follow us at makingamomentpod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
So I used to be a gardener. I've taken a few years off, but there's actually a certification you can get from the Utah State Extension, the Master Gardener. I did that whole class back with Doug Sagers way back in the day. And I used to grow these really big gardens. We would can the tomatoes that came from the gardens. They taste amazing. And the last few years, I have grown nothing but weeds.
Does that designation give you some ability to market your product more than anyone else?
No, I mean, I don't market, but it
I
gave
mean, if
me,
you got the Master Gardener's designation.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it just gives you, it's like I want to know how to grow better veggies in an arid desert. Right.
So do I.
So we know that they taste really good. And actually, this article intrigued me over the weekend. Ariel Harmer, who's on the opinion team at the Deseret News, talked about farm to table creating communities here in Utah. And Ariel, I wondered if you could talk to us for just a few minutes about what you wrote about this week.
Yeah, of course. So last week or a couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go to Gracie's Farm out in Wanship, which is just past Park City. And they have a farm dinner series that they host every summer where they basically take one crop or a couple of different crops and use it as the focus point for a dinner. So what they did was they set up a huge long table just among the rows of crops in the actual farm and invited the guests out. And they had, a couple different courses and they had different drink pairings and mocktails to go with it. And it was really an incredible experience. This one, the first dinner in the series that I was able to attend, focused on baby spring vegetables. So they brought out, radishes that they had just picked, that week, a couple days prior, and some spring greens. And they brought out a couple of ingredients that some of us had never heard of before, like baby corn shoots, which is the leaves that, that grow when you first plant corn. And turns out they're edible and they're delicious. And it was a great community experience because, again, it was just one long table. All of these strangers sat next to each other, and we were really connected with the produce and the earth, and we got to connect with the actual farmers who had picked the produce. So it was a great experience.
What a great idea, Ariel. I mean, that sounds like a lot of fun. What do you think it is about the farm to table, the homegrown aspect of produce that makes people so attracted to it?
So I think, and this is something that Lindsay Gammon, who was the one who started the farm, something that she spoke to me a lot about was the fact that it's becoming a lot more popular for Americans to reconnect to their food. We've been so disconnected from our food and frankly from each other in the past couple of years, and in the past few decades we've gotten very used to going to the grocery store, and we don't really know where our food comes from. And so at first it started off as just kind of this novelty. You go to a farmer's market and you get to see that somebody actually grew something themselves. But as I think Holly was saying, the produce honestly just tastes better when it's fresh. When you have to mass produce produce, you have to pick it a little bit early. It can't just ripen on the vine because you have to, take care of transportation, and that takes a couple of weeks sometimes. So you lose a lot of flavor. And so I think, frankly, people are just realizing that it does taste better sometimes to go and get fresh produce. And it's just exciting to realize that we have the opportunity to grow our own food. Sometimes we forget, and people live in, food deserts, and people worry about food scarcity, and they don't realize that you can just start growing it in your own backyard.
So, Ariel, if somebody wants to participate in one of these dinners, where can they find more information?
So if they just go to Gracie's Farm website at the Auberge Resorts, the Lodge at Blue Sky website, they should be able to find all the information. There are going to be, I believe, 3 more dinners in the series. One's focused on garlic, another on tomatoes, and another on the final harvest.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining us today. That's Ariel Harmer.
That sounds incredible, actually.
I know, right?
I know. It makes me hungry just thinking about it. So I need to. It's that time of day, Holly, when you can tell us about some of your fun facts and some of the things that you think our listeners really need to know about.
Yeah. So it's World Chocolate Day, which should be a federal holiday, I think. Look, I love chocolate, and I've had it in many places all around the world, including in Belize, where they took us through the whole process of harvesting the cocoa and the pods and all of that. But I've had some really bad chocolate too that was kind of like chalk. The best I think I've ever had in the world was in Switzerland.
I don't like chocolate. I know that's
I'm sad
crazy.
for you.
I'm not a chocolate fan. I don't get chocolate ice cream. I don't like chocolate bars. But this will sound weird. The best chocolate I've ever had. Every time I get chocolate, like a Hershey bar or a Snickers bar or something, I put it in the freezer because I love the taste of chocolate that cracks in your mouth. You remember those brown toppers, those ice creams that they used to dip it in?
Yeah,
that's chocolate. I know that's crazy.
That's
the
like
best.
wax.
That's the
That
best
tastes like
chocolate I
wax.
ever had. No, that's those bars that have the hard chocolate on them. That's the best chocolate I've ever had.
Yeah,
I know that's weird.
It's interesting. So the worst chocolate I ever had was in Russia. And this would have been shortly after the fall of the Iron Curtain. I was over there on an adoption trip, but tried Russian chocolate. It was really, really terrible.
I can't tell you the worst chocolate I've ever had because that's all. I don't like it at all.
Okay, so I have some other fun facts actually. So we know that Joan of Arc was burned at the stake for heresy in 1456. On July 7th, 1456, a retrial acquitted her 25 years after she was executed. So I guess there's that.
1456.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty progressively thinking for
it is, right?
600 years ago that somebody thought, we should do something about it. We're going to right a wrong. And you wonder who tried that case. You would never do that today, except maybe just in the court of public opinion. Like, should so-and-so be cleared or somebody so be
Well,
pardoned?
I can look at like Emmett Till, and they had after his, he was killed,
Good
right?
point,
But
right.
after that, there were people who admitted it. There wasn't really a trial. But okay, in 1861, Nettie Stevens, who is a female scientist, she discovered the X and Y chromosomes. She did not get a lot of credit. Men took the credit for that, but
I was
she
going to
discovered.
say, I've never even heard that name before.
That's right. In 1898, on July 7th, the U.S. annexed Hawaii. So we know how that turned out, right?
Was that
It's now a state, but
was that the 49th or 50th state?
it became the 50th state, but that didn't
Okay.
happen until the 1950s, like
Okay. Oh, we
1957-ish.
annexed it first. Right.
Yeah. So,
Okay,
yep,
right.
that's right. Okay, so what is that expression? It's the best thing since
Sliced bread.
sliced bread. So on July 7th, 1928, sliced bread was actually sold commercially for the
I
first
got the right
time.
answer. That's good. I helped you out here.
By the Chillicothe Baking Company in Missouri, and they described it at the time as the greatest thing since bread was wrapped.
There you
So
go.
being able to slice it was the greatest thing.
So this is something I've always wondered. How do they do it? I mean, I don't know how you slice bread unless you
It's-
do it when it's
Like
harder.
literally knives, right? That
Yeah,
just
but very, really sharp knives because
Yeah.
if you press it at all, it just squishes. I
it
can't
does
slice
squish,
bread.
but
right.
yeah, no, you can slice bread. So and you can slice puffy bread. In 1947, here's an interesting fun fact that kind of relates to UFO Day, which I believe was Thursday last week. The Roswell Daily Record on July 7th, 1947, quoted officials at Roswell Army Airfield as saying they had recovered a flying saucer that crashed into a ranch.
Yeah, what happened with that investigation?
Well,
that's right up there with the Epstein files.
I know, right? The Department of Defense still has an eyeball on UFOs.
Yes,
they
found a flying saucer, but nobody knows where it is
We need
now.
to get Brandon Fugel on the show to talk about Skinwalker Ranch. Speaking of UFOs and paranormal phenomena, he would be great. He was a neighbor of mine and taught some of my kids at church, so there you go.
Oh, we need to get him on for a lot of things. He's an interesting man.
Okay, one last final fact before we wrap up our day. In 1981, Sandra Day O'Connor was nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court by Ronald Reagan, and she was the first female justice ever appointed to the Supreme Court.
And she served for a very, very long time.
She did.
And of course, now we're probably like maybe a dozen that seem we've had.
It's still not
maybe,
that many.
Maybe single
actually.
digits, yeah.
But yeah, nominated by Republican President Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So we're hearing that jury selection is now underway for the case of a local doctor accused of faking COVID-19 vaccines. Midday with Maria Chaleos is up next. Stay with us on KSL News Radio.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake